It's apparently it's when
Apparently, we started with apparently.
It's Wednesday, and
yes, it is Wednesday. It's not apparently Wednesday. It's actually Wednesday.
Actually Wednesday.
Yeah.
And that's my job. Okay, welcome everybody. It's Wednesday, September 3rd.
Ian,
September. How did it get to be September already?
Ian, how would you define the word apparently?
Something that appears to be true, even though you're not sure it actually is true.
Why don't you let him answer?
Ostensibly.
Yeah, ostensibly is a good one. That's a good alternative, right?
Ostensibly,
but not as funny.
But ostensibly is a slightly different connotation.
Slightly.
It means that someone is claiming this to be true.
Right.
As whereas apparently it's like
it seems to be.
The circumstantial evidence makes it seem as if it's true. But I'm not. But it also implies that I'm not vouching for this.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like somebody
when
else's.
we used it, it's like apparently this is the case, but I'm not vouching for it myself personally.
Right.
This is just what is being said or appears to be the case.
Like apparently Monsatan is all right. That's anyway. Here we go. Also, if anybody noticed it, we got a new intro from Painter 3D, and the Discord has been helping us with a bunch of visual stuff. So there's a new intro. It's slightly more refined as opposed to my kind of quick down.
Can we see it?
I just showed it. That was the countdown.
Comments are hidden.
All right, I'll do the thing. The comments are
so
hidden.
what's new? The stars are moving.
Well, notice, the stars are moving.
Why would the stars move like that? It makes them look like fireflies.
Actually, I think I did make the stars moving. They made them much smoother. Also, the moon is also moving. Although that drop, that little star drop is new. The fire, it was fire before. Now it's like fuel-ish.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
whatever.
All
And
right, so I don't like the stars moving at all.
They moved from the beginning. That was actually I did that.
I don't like it.
It's too bad. Okay, and then there's this one. Hold on, and then
the ship
they
takes
did
off.
a nice fight and a little rumbly thing.
Nice,
Look at
nice.
That's
Okay?
cool. I
That's
like all
better.
that. Stars should not move from a single perspective because you're not looking at them.
Maybe they're aliens. Shut up. All right, here we go.
And now, if you
Sorry.
had some kind of parallax, it still wouldn't make sense, but at least it would be cool.
All right. And we're gonna talk about Monsatan. Everybody's excited. Monsatan, witches, huh? What are they good for? Anybody guess? Okay, no.
I know exactly.
Okay, and then fun stuff, and then question mark, and then TikToks. All right. Anyway, hey everybody, how you doing? Yeah, Steve is in a t-shirt. He's retired in the t-shirt.
It's my new casual mode.
He's going full cash.
All right, so we're going to start with Monsanto?
No, let's do some fun stuff just
Okay,
to
that's what I was
welcome
gonna
people
say.
in. They're getting in. They're coming through. How's everybody doing? Superheroes. You guys have talked about what you would do as like what your superpower would be.
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's watch a video about this guy's idea of what his how he would change Superman, and see if you vibe with what he's putting down.
Okay.
Somebody tagged us in this because it's a little AQ60, but let's see what he says.
If I were Superman, I'd
Oh, I do
things a little differently. First of all, I'd be flying feet first. I'd rather bludgeon with my feet than throw punches, and it would be a more comfortable position for my neck. I ditched the cape, it doesn't look right anymore. Most importantly, flying feet first would free up my hands, so I can carry my rifle. I might be faster than a speeding bullet, but I can't be in two places at once. I'd fill the air with bullets to strategically control the battlefield. When I'm done with the gun, I'd crumple it up so no one can use it, and throw it away. I'd also know that my greatest weakness isn't...
All right, what do you think about Superman having a gun? First of all,
Well, yeah. Feet
Yeah,
first
that
is
kind
funny.
of funny.
It doesn't fit his vibe.
doesn't fit his vibe.
His
entirely.
idiom, as it
But I
were.
guess this is pseudo Superman or whatever his name is.
kryptonite. Rather, it's my loving
You
family.
raise the volume?
I'd have to go anonymous to keep them safe. I wear a full-body costume that I have printed like a pre-production car. The pattern breaks up my silhouette and hides finer details. For added safety, I'd conceal my height and proportions with some well-placed padding. I wouldn't want to talk too much either, but that's mostly because my lungs would be filled with liquid air. You see, in the minutes before a fight, I'd pack air into my lungs, using a technique invented for freediving. Because I'm Superman, I can pack the air so densely it turns into a liquid. I'd be able to unleash a single, devastating coup de grace of cryogenic gas as I expel the air, freezing my target. The air would expand to 700 times its liquid volume,
Superman's
which
not
alone
that
could
far,
blow the windows
Yeah.
out of a building
Not with the
before I
liquid
torch it with my heat vision.
Not with liquid, but he just had cold breath
Yes.
or something, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
so in a way, he kind of. Oh,
Ghost.
Just some boxes.
just some boxes. Ignore
No
that.
panic.
Don't
A liquid
panic.
oxygen fire is no joke. But if I needed precision, I'd use hand tools like pliers or shears. Even if I can't punch or stomp through a target, I bet I could tunnel clean through them with a pair of shears made from nth metal that I commissioned from Hawk Tua Girl. Imagine the grip strength of a god focused to a razor edge. I'd carry pouches of ball bearings, which I could throw like anti-material buckshot. I'd also carry a bespoke tool called rescue tongs, which would let me lift vehicles one-handed. I'd enrich myself by
Structural
ferrying
integrity.
cargo to low Earth orbit
a
for
good
NASA. We jointly developed the Super Shuttle, a mostly propulsionless passenger craft, with a central reinforced hardpoint that I push on to bring us to orbit. The Super Shuttle can get back to Earth on its own, gliding on re-entry, like the now retired Space Shuttle, or the currently in service secret US military space drone. I charged $10 million per launch, which would still be a bargain for NASA, seeing how a SpaceX rocket costs $70 million per launch. The money would be spent on lobbying so I could reshape America to my vision, funding social programs and infrastructure projects. We'd finally get high-speed rail. And last but not least, I ditched the tired, dated red trunks in exchange for a red thong. It isn't the 1930s anymore, and it's time for a more streamlined look.
Oh my
Now,
god.
I debated whether or not I should include this joke, but I figure if the Minions movie can do it, so can I. With all these changes, I don't really think I can call myself Superman anymore. I feel like so much more. So why don't you make your way to the comments section and give me some ideas for my new name?
Anyway,
Wow.
somebody tagged us in that. I was like, what? The guy
Well, I mean, there's so much to say. I mean, first of all, Superman does, like Bob said, does some of that stuff. But, the costume and him, like, using it to make him less, you can't, like, detect exactly where he is. Superman
He doesn't
doesn't need
care.
that. Superman doesn't need most of what he's saying. Right?
What's happening, man?
Like that big clamp thing that he's using to pick up the car. Like Superman could just hold it, balance it with one hand, and fly with it, which he does in the comic books.
But don't forget, a common complaint I have with superheroes is the whole idea of structural integrity is
Yeah.
out the window. Like Hulk taking a tank by the
Canon.
the business end and swinging it. It's like, or even lifting a plane or a car from one spot. It's just going to fall apart. It's not meant to.
Yeah,
do.
right.
That's just like all over
That's
superheroes
that's
everywhere.
But I don't think that clamping thing would solve the problem. So I tell you, I like the bigger idea of, like Superman
helping NASA.
Well, yeah, I mean, the idea that he just relies entirely on his attributes to get things done, and doesn't think about how best to exploit, his strengths, with even just a little bit of technology or with props.
Yeah.
And if you start to think about it, because then what he ends up doing is improvising with whatever's at hand, rather than flying around with something that's designed to have a specific use. that
Sure, like what though? I'm
The
trying
ball
to think.
bearings thing would be very deadly.
yes,
Yes.
that would be good for Magneto. If he should carry around ball bearings.
No,
But I like the idea of building a shuttle that only Superman could lift into orbit. But then you're investing a lot of money in something that you're now dependent on one guy for.
Right, and I love how he specifically mentioned having a specific
A
point to-
reinforced point of
Yeah, that's what you would need.
and if Superman wanted to help NASA, that's one thing. If Superman wanted to make money, would be willing to do things to make money, he could probably do way better than $10 million a pop, even though it wouldn't take him long to do it.
Oh yeah, but that's also an interesting idea, like using his powers to make money, which seems petty, but using that money to fund things, rather so you're not dependent on the government to fund, like the Hall of Justice or whatever. Who was
Yeah.
funding that?
Yeah.
Or
Bruce Wayne. Yeah, like he could contribute.
Bruce
The
Wayne.
money can contribute to like science research
Yeah.
that being defunded at horrible rates. in
my
this
problem
damn
is-
country.
I wouldn't be morally exactly where Superman is. Like Superman does not kill people. That's why the first Superman movie that had what's his face in it?
Christopher Reeves.
No,
Oh,
the guy that played The Witcher. I can't believe I can't remember.
yeah, that guy.
Cavill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
James
Henry?
Cavill.
Henry?
Henry Cavill. The first movie.
That guy's cool, man, and he's a
He's hella
geek.
I love
Yeah.
him. He's awesome, by the way. But the point is, in that first movie, he kills Zod, and Superman doesn't kill people, and that's bullshit. I think Superman should kill people. I really do. I mean, it's like
Which people?
Why?
Which people?
But for somebody that powerful, I think
Yeah.
it's a good idea to have a general rule of you don't kill people.
Yeah.
You give them to the powers that be,
Authorities.
they could enact justice. 'Cause otherwise, he's judge, jury, and execution.
Yeah, that's great for like regular humans, but not great for superpowers. Okay, I'm not going to kill this guy who can destroy millions of people before I'd even be able to get there. Like, no.
Well, that's true.
Yeah,
I mean, definitely for
Thanos.
normal humans, that should be the rule. But yeah, for super villains, you might have to have separate rules.
Yeah.
I agree. Did you guys didn't see the new Superman movie?
No,
Not
not
yet,
yet.
not
Ah!
We can't talk about that. It's
No.
really good. It's really, really good.
Can't
And
wait. I gotta go see
They
it.
do make some tweaks to how they deal with Superman, which I heartily endorse.
Ian, check your phone.
Because my biggest problem with Superman as just as a narrative, thing is he's indestructible,
Oh.
and that's boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he goes from indestructible to he's completely helpless with kryptonite. There's nothing in between, and it really puts you in a corner.
Narratively,
yeah. It's not good.
Yeah, I agree, Steve. I mean, thinking that Superman always has to be faced with a short list of things, right? One of them is he's got two things that he needs to do at the same exact
Yeah,
time.
right.
He has to fight something that is kind of on his power level,
Yeah.
right? He always ends up winning, but, to challenge him, which means what? That it's kind of like a mix of the same scenarios. You have someone that's so powerful they could do something so horrific, and they're smart. And
Like I remember
blah, blah, blah.
watching the fight between Superman and Zod and his people. It's like, this is pointless. They can't hurt each other. What's
Yeah.
happening? They're just doing property
Right,
damage.
right. Although the
It-
battle was cool to watch. Yeah, it is ultimately
But
pointless.
it was
It's property
pointless though, and
damage.
that took me out of it.
And Superman should be smart enough to know I'm going to take this out of the populated
Yeah.
area, duh, because
Yeah.
that's like his number one concern is not to hurt people.
When you think of the insurance adjusters, come on, Superman.
Well, that's what shut down the superheroes in The Incredibles, right?
Incredibles, right?
I did like from that first
Yeah.
Superman, the Cavill Superman movie,
Mm-hmm.
that he made it very clear that he will not be beholden to the U.S. government or to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
If you want my help, I'm here to help. I get with
I'm not your bitch.
subtext as long as I agree with it.
Yeah.
And it's the right thing for the people and
course.
everything. But I mean, if you think about what Superman would be, like this guy, like was talking mostly about, like min-maxing Superman, which is a role-playing term, which means like
Gamers.
you get the most power that you can with the existing rule set.
Yeah, you're looking for synergies. Like, how can I exploit things to get some kind of ridiculous, utility or power?
Right, but what people don't largely talk about Superman other than his powers. Like what he could do is he could tell things like, "Hey, President of the United States, you're not going to do that anymore."
Well, that's another red line.
Yeah.
If he starts to dictate policy, then that's a problem.
But why couldn't you? Why wouldn't you if you had that power?
Because self-restraint though is kind of built into it.
I get it, but I mean, there are things, Steve, that are so.
Because then you take over the world. And there was a good cartoon about that. It was like an alternate, what if Superman landed in Russia, kind of thing.
Oh yeah, red.
Yeah, and it was good. It was really good, but it was that very dilemma. It's like once you cross that line, eventually you're basically ruling the world.
What's wrong with that? Why?
Well, because what is wrong with that?
Dictator.
The world is a dictatorship, and now it's completely beholden to one person.
But we're talking about Superman.
But
though.
but he's not super moral or ethical
Yes,
necessarily.
he is.
No,
Yes,
he's
he
not.
is.
He's not. No, he isn't. He's just a good guy, but he's not. He still has frailty, emotionally and intellectually.
But he's profoundly more well suited than anybody I've ever seen sit in the office.
But still, it's still a dictatorship of one super powerful guy.
But
Well, how about this workaround?
And
How
even
about,
if he thinks he's being a good guy, he could say, like, oh, I think that communism is the best way to go. We're going to impose communism around the world. And if you disagree with that, so then
Yeah.
I get that.
then
but
value judgments become a matter
Steve,
of you have to do what the dictator
wait,
says.
wait, I got to say this. I know what you're going to say, Bob, and I like it. But
Okay.
I got to retort to Steve. You're talking about in general, and I'm talking about the character Superman, who we have a very well understood profile on exactly where his morals are. If I were Superman and I was living inside his morality, my recommendation would be for him to actually call the shots, because he's better suited. Compared to humans, he's super intelligent. He is not just mildly intelligent; he's very intelligent.
Yeah, but is he Dr. Manhattan level intelligent?
No, I don't think so.
or even Batman.
I think Dr.
Size Superman up with the last 20 U.S. presidents and tell me which one you think would be better than him.
Well, I mean, but he's notoriously a Boy Scout. He was a super good guy. I get that.
Okay, there you
But
go.
then,
You
but
answered
then
my
still,
question.
government is often about value judgments, and no one person should be able to make those value
Yeah,
judgments.
so
for
go ahead,
for
Bob.
8
Here's the answer.
billion people.
Oh, wait, one way he could work around this is assuming he's ridiculously popular, right? Everybody loves him. If he feels strongly enough about something that, say, some country is doing, he could make a statement about how he feels about it and get the public, sway the public to his way of thinking, so that the public can then pressure the elected officials so that would be one way for him to make
in the
some
video.
influence.
If you remember, he said he would start lobbying, like use the money to lobby
Right.
for like high-speed rail or whatever, which is like, okay, that's cool, but like, what else does he also want? Like,
If I were Superman, I would take lobbying completely out of the equation, because lobbying is so abused today. It does more harm than good, in my opinion. He
Right,
could.
so now we're ruling based upon your opinion.
That's right.
Not
I'm
any
fucking
process.
Superman. I'm Superman. I could have a council like the Justice League, but it could be like elected officials.
To rubber stamp your decisions.
Exactly.
No, that would be bad.
I think, Steve, for the most part,
Yes.
governments do a lot of harm.
yeah,
A lot of harm intentionally and unintentionally. And if we have
So the
some,
solution is better government, not anarchy, and not dictatorship.
which has not been achieved by anybody so far.
What do you mean? That's not true.
What? Say
Not-
it.
What?
Say it.
I'm not saying perfect government, but but you don't think that incrementally better government over time can happen?
Sure, but it's moving too slowly.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's moving too slowly for you. Yeah, give it all to a
No,
dictator.
well, it's not moving slowly now. It's in the negative, and it's not moving slowly.
I don't understand what the problem is here. If we woke up tomorrow and you
Yeah.
had Superman's powers,
Yes.
I'd be like, Steve.
You would tell me to do things I would not do, and
No,
I'd have to
I-
explain to you why I'm not doing
But
them.
I would say I know you better than like this might
You
be.
know
there
yourself.
There might
if
be
you did, then
one-
you would know that I would not do what you're suggesting
Hold
I
on
do.
a second. but for example, and this is just a
Yes.
thought experiment. What would you do about Trump?
Nothing.
Nothing? Oh my God, that guy'd be dead in 30 seconds if it were
no,
up to me.
Yeah, that
lock
I
him
would
into
know.
a
I'm Superman.
room.
Like, you
Well,
would.
that's actually a good segue, because what
Oh,
about
God,
Trump
Steve.
happened this weekend?
Oh, help me.
Also, we're saving this for AQ6, which is coming back. Everybody, stand by. Okay, you're excited.
You wouldn't.
All right, well, moving
No.
on to Trump. May or may not
I don't
be.
get it.
He's dead already, Jay, so don't worry about it. He died this weekend.
It's
Yeah,
right.
that's
He
right.
is
Yeah, right.
dead. So yeah, the next topic is
to have a doppelganger?
Well, it's witches, huh? What are they good for? Apparently, Witch Talk was, wishing his demise, but I guess they're useless,
Mm-hmm.
and they can't. As we were talking, I think on the. Oh no, you talked on the show last week, right? About witches, people believing witchcraft.
Him
Apparently, it doesn't
shaking
work.
hands
Okay,
Apparently, it doesn't work.
So we should talk a little bit about the fervor of Trump's demise happening over the weekend. It was all just kind of social media, hyperventilating and running amok, but also anomaly hunting.
Yeah.
So he's had these bruises, you may see, on his hand for months now. Some people, assume it might be because he's getting some injection sites or something, or, he's...
No, that's not an injection bruise.
Yeah, so that's like one claim. He could have just hurt
He could be on
himself.
aspirin. That's it. Take aspirin it's a gentle blood thinner, and you will get bruises.
There you go.
But what
That's
about
like half my patients his age.
Yeah.
No.
what
Like
about the
nothing.
cankles?
Yeah, whatever.
he's
That's
old,
part.
man.
Well, you got to
That
add
could be a
that.
medication
Medication,
side
too.
effect. That could be that. Sure, he's got some venous insufficiency, which has already been made public. That will do it.
That's what they admitted to. I mean, I don't think this is like blatant. I don't think the behavior was ridiculous, and I think based on what was happening in terms of what we're seeing here with the bruising and the cankles and stuff, and then all of a sudden he doesn't talk to the public for 3 or 4 days.
2 days.
It was bizarre because
That's not bizarre for him.
3 or 4. I mean,
He played golf, whatever he was doing.
he had no scheduled appointments. He didn't make any public appearances.
We're getting there.
Right,
All
so-
right,
Okay, let's
okay.
look at the hands. So now there was also some, shots of him having makeup on his hands, which,
I mean, that's so
Is that
bad.
Photoshop enhanced in any way? Because
It might be.
That looks like
That
such
looks
a
ridiculous.
it's from the
ridiculously
AP,
bad.
so maybe it's bad. I mean, but also, he's notoriously vain.
I mean, his
so,
skin
like,
tone looks correct.
He doesn't
but-
want it to look bad. He's doing this where he's covering his hand in this interview the whole time. He doesn't reveal it. So, like, he's probably doesn't want to show it off.
Yeah, that's all makes sense.
It's all kind of things. But this is what people are saying. Oh, he's trying to hide something. Now, the other thing that came out was J.D. Vance said he would take over if Trump was, God forbid, whatever he said.
No shit. That's the job of the VP.
Right.
What the?
But I feel very
But
confident the
this
president of the
is-
United States is in good shape, is going to serve the remainder of his term, and is great to blah, blah, blah. God forbid there's a terrible tragedy. I can't think of better on-the-job training than what I've gotten over the last 200 days.
So
ahead.
that statement is a little off, right? Or he accentuates the point that he's ready to take over if need be. I mean, if you just add all this together, I could absolutely see that something happened to Trump in terms of like maybe was it TIA's transient ischemic.
Transient ischemic attack. It's a mini stroke.
I mean, he could have. I could have seen something like that because you can't expect
It's all
anything from the
possible, Bob.
administration
It's all
to admit it.
possible,
I
but
mean,
we're not getting enough
The
information.
thing is, in trying to make inferences from these, again, really weak anomaly hunting clues online, doesn't have a good history,
No.
isn't a good strategy, and I think leads you to this, again, hyperventilating, something's
then,
happening.
Let me throw another anomaly on there.
Go ahead.
They were. Here's Trump today playing golf, and
Here's your mic.
people.
I got that. I got it. Let's
Go ahead.
wait for me. Okay. So, as you were pointing out, where is Donald Trump today? On the golf course was the claim. He hadn't been meeting with the press for several days, which is not that. I mean, it's not that crazy when you look at his history, but it was used as an anomaly that he's been, in front of the press for 30 days, and now he's gone. What's happening? So, and then it came out with what you were saying. There was, okay, Snopes, stop. This claim that he was on the golf course. The White House released photos of U.S. President Donald Trump taken in 2019, claiming they were Labor Day weekend in August 2025. Snopes rates that as false, actually. So it all comes from this TikTok.
What?
Look,
There's,
No, show, go to the
there's an
picture.
audio
Go back to
anomaly,
the
so
same
watch
picture.
your ears for a second.
Right there.
this picture.
Look at the date.
Pic-
I'm going to mute it because it like buzzes and it's annoying.
Was that legit? What we just saw, though.
So the website
And the date.
might be legit in terms of the article, but I think it likely story is that they just updated with a newer photo or something like that. That's like of the time of today. But let's look at what the Snopes article goes into. The video featured the user clicking back and forth between different photos and claiming they were nearly identical as of the writing. The video has nearly 500,000 reactions, blah, 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 comments. Photos depicted the president and the grandchildren in the presidential motorcade outside the White House's South Lawn en route to Trump National Club in Sterling, Virginia. It was posted on TMZ about the photos being old. A reverse image search of the photos in question revealed no results earlier than that weekend. But so this was just a claim Either they could have doctored the website, just it's very easy to write like 2019 on a website, right, like that. Or, the website just updated with a modern photo in a carousel, right, of other photos, and it had just happened to be a new photo
Yeah.
from an old article.
But what about
go ahead.
And you're focusing on this one picture here, it seems. But I saw a picture where he claimed to be playing golf with somebody semi-famous, and people were saying that he did not play with him this weekend or something like that. That picture that was was not from this weekend.
Right. So the claim around that one is that the guy was wearing the same outfit. So, and that was like, what's the likelihood a month later the guy would wear the same like golfing outfit? And it's like, well,
It's not that
okay.
uncommon.
it's not that
All right.
uncommon.
I wear the same exact black T-shirt, not the same
Yeah.
T-shirt, but
So-
I wear black T-shirts every day. That's it.
Yeah, but also happened is some AI enhancement was affected with some of these photos. So here's a photo, as you see on the left, very blurry. And here's the enhanced photo.
Is
And
that even
so
Trump? It doesn't look like it.
that. Well, this is the problem with maybe AI enhancement or just enhancing photos, whatever that even means, is, they kind of made him look like Chunk from Goonies or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's like this anomaly
Hey, you
here
guys.
is not necessarily skin. I mean, it could just be lighting. It could just be his hair.
Oh yeah,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
So it is interpolating that as some sort of defect, and they're saying he had a stroke because of that.
I mean, it did. If everything we're seeing here is real, meaning that that picture on the left was legitimately, I mean, it did an okay job. It did, other than that weird light spot in between his eyes, which I think
Yeah.
we could just completely ignore. But that doesn't look like Trump to me. It might be just a weird
I
angle.
think it's just a weird angle and facial expression. It looks like
Yeah.
Trump.
Yeah, but it's also like the enhancement, subtle differences do change what a person looks
he?
like. I mean, look at his ear; it's all like melted into his
Yeah.
body.
Well,
Like,
it looks
that's
very
clearly
similar
not
to the
real.
one from the first picture, though.
Did it look like he lost some weight
Maybe
on the left? People
Maybe
are
he
also
did.
saying it looks like he's lost some weight.
he could have. I mean, he might. Oh, I think.
All right, so you're saying that there's no real evidence that a picture was claimed to be recent that wasn't recent. Is that it?
That's what Snopes is saying. That's what a lot
Okay.
of people are pointing to. I know that was like the.
All I
popular
know is-
theme. Go ahead.
I'm not even going to say it.
Say it.
I know. Well, the interesting thing is how many people were talking about it, maybe interested in this coming true.
The fact that his reign could potentially be coming to an end just made me feel like those happy couple hours I had when I thought he had COVID in 2020. I was like,
And didn't
he's
he-
got COVID?
And
Oh,
he
boy.
has COVID right now, doesn't he?
No, when he first had COVID, when he first had it, and we don't know what was going to happen. I mean,
Yeah.
people were dying, right? I mean, I don't know. It just made me.
I mean, just remember who
It
takes
made-
over in his stead.
I don't care. At this point, I don't care who takes over.
I don't know.
If he
But
were
all that
gone,
aside,
I think it would be better for this country.
So, the skeptical question here is, yes, people were anomaly hunting. They were leaping to conclusions. They were, assuming facts, not in evidence. And they were creating a narrative that obviously resonates with a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
And, that's not a reliable approach, and it leads you to conclusions you want to be true, not conclusions that actually are true. But on the flip side is, Trump is old. He's, not in the greatest of health by all evidence.
He had put up that.
The orange smoke. Waiting for the orange smoke in the White House. Yeah. That's funny.
Dude,
But-
what can we give him?
What can we give?
That is awesome. That's
Somebody
The
give him
question is, how quickly is he going to decline physically, and how much are they going to try to cover it up? Especially after all the wailing about
Yeah,
Joe
Biden.
Biden, which it was legit. I mean,
Yeah,
Biden,
they covered it.
they were trying to downplay his mental decline.
we
over
were all lied
Oh,
to.
yeah.
the last 6
Without a
months.
doubt.
Of,
Yeah.
the thing is, they were, the far right was, whining about it for 4 years, and it wasn't really true until like the last 6 months of his presidency, or like that last year. But in any case, they're probably going to make the same mistake that the Democrats made, and
Oh, my God.
not
Yeah,
be fully
of course.
transparent.
But
But
let's say-
even more so, don't forget, it's not like, I mean, making a comparison with Biden is valid to a point. I mean, there's no way that any other president, I don't care Republican or Democrat, no other president has had the White House physician,
Yeah.
what's he called,
Yeah,
the main doctor for the president basically lie his ass off
Yeah.
on what kind of shape
Yeah.
the president's in. I mean, that is just beyond the pale, of course. And that's
Oh yeah,
only
there's
just-
no reason to expect transparency or honesty or
at
truth.
any level.
He lives in a dome of a false reality that he creates.
far beyond any other president
Yeah.
historically.
But I think
Obviously, we all know this.
we didn't say that like something that is not unlikely, and it could very well be what happened. Like whatever the time period is that he disappeared, he could have just needed a break. There could have been something personal going on.
Yeah, I mean-
like there's lots of things that could happen. I know that
he's played golf every 4 days for his entire second administration. I read every 4 days he's on the golf. He's got plenty of breaks.
the problem is, Bob, wishful thinking is going to end up disappointing you in the end.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I just felt a little lighter
A little tinge of happiness.
for a couple of days, thinking that there may be a worldwide celebration coming very
Well, do
soon.
you think
I'm
like
not going
they
to
could-
buy any of that.
Yeah.
No, of course I didn't buy it. The bottom line was, we had to wait to see him talking on TV to really be sure that he was not.
But do you really think they
completely
could keep that under
compromised.
wraps? That he was like, let's say they were going to Weekend at Bernie's.
Oh my
like,
God,
that
yes,
do you
Weekend
think
at
they,
Bernie's.
No, but do you think they could actually?
No,
keep
not
that
if you
under
were
wraps?
No.
Not if
he
you
was
were dead.
No, there's no way.
Absolutely not.
But they could
Absolutely
hide
not.
him. It would be weird. Like if Trump had a stroke, for example, and he really got damaged by it, and they want to keep him from public appearances and everything, they could do that, and they could just
For a time.
and they could fake him texting and doing all the online stuff that he does. But at some point, within a couple of weeks, it would become a thing, a
Yeah.
real thing.
It would be way too limited. Basically, it would have to be something that they would do to figure out what they're going to do. Like, all right, we need a week. We need a week to 10
Yeah.
days to figure out what we're going to do here.
Yeah, they could-
and that's there's another anomaly we didn't mention that people were claiming, that some of his tweets during this time were a little bit too coherent than what's typical.
They should have had Newsom write them for him.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, this is
Right?
not the podcast, but somebody was talking on
Yeah,
the TikTok.
this is
You
a
can
live
listen.
stream.
This is the live stream, so it's just more relaxed and loose in terms of what
Yeah,
we
well-
talk about. If you want to listen to the podcast, go to theskepticsguide.org. You can listen to the podcast or at your podcast
All
app of
1,000
choice.
plus episodes.
You
Yeah.
have plenty of listening material, and plus then Kara and Evan are also part of that, and guests and interviews and blah 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 blah.
Are you
All right.
guys MAGA? No, we are.
No, we are
Wait,
100% not MAGA.
We're not
Wait,
MAGA.
what? That had to
Blue
be- that had to be a
MAGA, is
joke.
everybody
No, that
into-
person
into
could be
blue
just popped
MAGA?
in here. They don't know.
No, we're not MAGA.
Blue,
Yeah, so if
okay.
you don't know who we are
we
all
are.
hosts of a podcast called The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. We promote critical thinking, which essentially is we teach people, help people understand, how your brain fools you
Mm-hmm.
and teach you how to think logically. And I know that sounds as boring as watching paint dry, and
No, it's exciting.
but for a lot of people, it's
And
fun.
Yeah.
The other side to that coin, of course, is science communication,
Yeah.
not
It's
just pure.
there's three legs to this stool, right? It's science communication,
Science
scientific literacy,
science literacy,
critical thinking,
and critical thinking.
and media savvy.
That's a fourth leg.
No, I see. You counted two. One is two.
Well, I'm just-
The science ones are that was
It's
one. I just
extra
said it
legs.
twice.
Okay. So start over.
Start off.
All right.
Scientific
How many-
literacy,
Yeah,
critical
scientific
thinking,
critical thinking.
media savvy.
Media savvy.
Right. So the whole claim failed. The critical thinking and media savvy
That's right.
part of it wasn't really unscientific, although being a physician helps me evaluate things like a little bit of bruising on the hand is nothing.
Nothing.
Is literally in an 80-year-old. How old is he now? 79.
79.
Yeah.
Is nothing.
That's
Just
super
don't-
common.
Yeah, just don't worry about that at all.
And the fact that they're trying
Swollen
to,
ankles, all right, okay, he's probably got, again, he's got venous insufficiency, okay, that's not a big deal.
can we just call them from now on his
Okay.
swankles?
His swankles?
Yeah, swollen ankles.
Trunkles.
Ian, what do you think?
His trunkles.
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 Oh, trunkle. What the hell?
All right.
Oh God.
So anyway.
that's good. No,
So
I like
that's-
them both.
So the live stream were much looser than the podcast. If you want some real hard hitting, all that skeptical stuff, listen.
But
to the
all the
podcast.
stuff, by the way,
go ahead,
all
sorry.
this is not a new thing. If you remember, there was a time when they thought that Hillary Clinton was deathly ill and she was
passed
coughing up
out,
a
I think,
lung
once,
and
like-
Yep, yep.
all
Oh, yeah.
nonsense, all nonsense. There was a time when they thought that this was going to be even way back that
What?
what's John
Reagan?
McCain.
Oh, McCain?
Yeah.
This is before he when he got a brain tumor, he said, "I have a brain tumor." Right? Like
Yeah.
as soon as that information existed, the world knew it. But before that, there was a lot of speculation that he had a stroke or something. It was all based
Bullshit.
upon bullshit. Yeah, this sort of micro analyzing subtle differences that were not meaningful. It's all down in the weeds. And it was,
It's
this
all
is
anomaly
endless.
hunting.
It's endless.
just
It's all
not
anomaly hunting by people who don't know what they're talking about, and it becomes a conspiracy theory. It's just noise. You're best off just ignoring it until there is some kind of official vetted information.
And
Yeah, you can't make any conclusions. Just enjoy the memes. Enjoy the memes.
But this is
if you're
but
of
I
that
don't
ilk.
This
enjoy
is a
them.
perfect example, though, of confirmation bias and things like that. Like, I have to stop myself from getting excited and leaning in and going, yeah, there's shit on his hand, and that means he's dying. Like, you gotta stop yourself, because in the end, we don't know anything.
I'm looking for any reason to be hopeful here.
Yep. I
Any
mean, look,
reason to be
we've
hopeful.
seen
I don't know if that's the one.
we've seen both.
No, but it's not.
Both political parties
could have
in
been.
the U.S. were not giving all the information. It's probably been like this for longer than it's not. It's just that this is the way that most governments operate.
Yeah.
You can't trust what they
Yeah.
say. You have to like be a educated consumer of the information that comes from the government. And some presidents are a lot worse than other presidents and administrations at telling the
Yeah.
Truth. And
Trump's the worst.
Yeah, Trump so far.
Hey,
is
remember the
definitely
Mitch
worst.
McConnell thing? Remember when
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
had a brain fart,
Yeah,
and
he's
people were
paused.
saying he's a robot, and the guy hit his on switch.
It's off.
He's a robot.
His pause.
And,
Whoops, that was early ChatGPT.
I mean, he's old. He had a senior moment. He had a
Yeah.
brain fart. Could that have been a TIA?
it was a long brain fart, though.
It was
Steve.
long.
was-
I
yeah,
get
not
it.
great.
It's like it wasn't like what's the word, or mix up names and shit. He literally went like this.
And it was several times, too.
Like he stood there, like it was like
wasn't-
too
yeah, it
long.
wasn't
It was
great.
fucking crazy.
I think the scientific consensus says that evil doesn't die. Is that
Is that it?
correct? Can we go with that science? Anyway, all right. Just that's your job.
I'm
All
liking
right.
this guy, Easy Eye. He's saying all the right things.
All right. Well. All right. We'll keep you. All right. Let's do a couple fun things, and then maybe we'll do some Monsanto.
Okay.
All right, so we're moving away
So
from politics.
you guys, yeah. Well, maybe this is political. I don't know. Do you guys remember Tunnel Girl?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do.
Do you remember this?
Oh, she made a
Okay.
mistake.
Is she
She-
door girl now?
Is she? I don't know. Well, here we go.
It's now been 3 years since I started my underground tunnel
Bumped her head on
system.
the top.
My
This is a
underground
recap.
lair.
I started by cutting an opening in the basement wall and mining downward into the unknown. Initially planned to build a small storm shelter, but it turns out mining is fun. And the solid rock made excavations safer than expected. I fabricated an elevator hopper to lift it to the surface. 200 tons so far. Shoved the cobblestone into double chests. I mean dumpsters. As the mine stretched deeper, I had to consider utilities and support. I laid a mile of rebar, placed blocks, and poured over 40 cubic yards of concrete, some mixed by hand, some pumped by truck. Installed a pump system, communications, air management, and electrical fit to run a mine. At 21 feet in depth, I discovered a layer of useful stone perfect for castle building, but exhausted it before getting enough. I'm still searching for another layer. Some of the rock needed blasting, and I was able to break it up with Dexpan expanding grout,
Real-life
which was
Minecraft.
suggested
Yeah,
by
you're
a follower. In fact, the community has provided a lot of useful input that helped me improve all of my work. The first section of tunnel was completed in the summer of 23 with a block wall and poured concrete ceiling. I set up a steel form to support the arch. This section stretches 30 feet down to the antechamber. The antechamber was poured in 2 parts, the walls and then the ceiling. I had trouble with the wall and one of the forms failed, but it was a learning experience. I set up better supports for the ceiling and was just about to pour when I was stopped in my tracks.
I think this is where we joined the first time.
The project was shut down in December of 23 due to lack of permits, and I spent the next year going through the administrative process and putting together documents, plans, reports, and calculations. After gargantuan effort and expense, I finally got approved to continue. Since the approval, I completed pouring the ceiling of the entrance antechamber and continued working on the lower section of the tunnel.
What
I
can't you
plan
do
to
here?
finish
Look at
off
this.
what I have so far and apply for a massive extension.
So you never know what your neighbors are doing.
Wow.
I vaguely remember. Didn't she go into other people's property and stuff? Like,
I think that was part of the claim, is that they were worried that she was, but I think she's under her own footprint technically. But I mean, it's wacky. It's an interesting.
Now, I didn't get the sense of like, and I'm building, living space. And it's like more of like, I just want to dig down and keep digging,
Don't dig straight down, but just, dig down. I don't know.
And,
It's trying to get to the layer where they have the diamonds.
Yeah.
it's like Minecraft style.
Yeah.
The tree's yours.
I can't help but thinking, because she's not I don't actually know her background, but
I don't think she has an engineering degree. I think
Yeah.
she is a software engineer, from what I recall. She's gotten permits, though. She did get permits. So
Okay.
it's legal.
the town that
interesting.
she lives in gave her permits. That doesn't mean much.
Well, it means something, and you certainly should. It's better to have permits than not have permits.
That's not what I'm saying. I mean, you could get, because she got permits doesn't mean that like a real structural engineer and all that like went over everything, whatever. Like
I would hope that it does.
Doesn't mean it though. I mean, most people live in small towns.
Yeah.
No, the guys aren't engineering. I technically went to school for engineering, but mechanical. But I don't really use it anymore, as you can tell.
I'm a bread engineer.
bread engineering.
I'm a
counts.
Halloween engineer.
Oh, that's actually true.
So my main concern, without having the information, is what are her qualifications? Can she do quality work? Does she know what she's doing? Is the engineering sound? Is she safe?
presumably, if she has permits, there must be some sort of inspection.
Yeah.
So
Again, though, Ian, a small town, who knows what their ordinances are? Who
Yeah.
knows who's
But I
stamping
mean, that's
that?
but that's up to the town. I mean, I don't know.
And
what
that's
to
not
say
the
about
point.
that.
It's
I
not
know.
the point. The
I
point
know.
is, we don't know if the town has the skill set to even give her approve and give her permits legitimately. I mean, it's legally legitimate, but it might
Sharon
not
was
be
saying,
structurally
A professional
legitimate.
engineer would have to have input. So some sort of professional engineer they might not be the best engineer. I don't know what that means even, but
And if I made the video, if I were her, I would be talking. She glossed over the whole permit thing, and I would be mentioning things like that. I talked, I had many meetings with the engineer team. Blah blah blah. I'd give some of that in there to make it, to make the audience understand
she
that
just
it's
watch videos
legitimate.
on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah. She was taking tips from people online. Again, okay, this could be helpful, very helpful. It could also be really dangerous.
Yeah.
well, it's almost certainly dangerous. Like
I'd be afraid of collapse. But she did mention
Right.
that the stone was such that,
Yeah,
that-
if she's mining into solid granite, it's a lot easier than if it were not,
Yeah.
a
If
stable
it's sandstone,
substrate.
you're in big trouble.
Right.
Yep. But anyway, that's a recap of 3 years of her doing that. So I mean,
Wow, man.
good for her, I guess. I don't know. I mean,
All right, one
good
more
luck.
thing.
I have a dream of
She's still alive.
of
Still alive.
creating.
Certainly.
I mean, can you imagine if in your basement being able to dig down and create this gargantuan type of like bunker
Lair. Mhm. Yeah.
layered party room
is fun.
type thing? That would be so
That's
awesome.
pretty cool.
Here's a question you ask yourself:
Okay, good.
Self?
If
Self.
if that person who made that
Yeah.
invited you to go down into the depths,
Ooh, would you
you
go?
do
Yes,
it? Would
yes.
you do it? And my answer would be probably not, because I would want to know how safe it is, and I wouldn't want her answer to be, I got the permits from the town.
I mean, I might, but would you bring your kids down with you?
No.
I guess. Yeah, I wouldn't bring.
I wouldn't go down there.
I
First
might,
of all,
I might.
why? You know what? It's not like
I'd check it out.
She built a
I might
cool
check it
living
She's been going
space.
up and down there for years. Probably safer 20 minutes to go down.
I don't know.
I mean, I would rather do that than go in a sub down to the Titanic
hell yeah.
by somebody
By
who's
God.
some
billionaire.
startup tech bro, whatever.
I totally agree, Steve.
That's true. I definitely trust her more than that guy.
Like the ocean can go fuck
Clearly.
itself. I'm not going. I am not going into a submarine, even if it doesn't go underwater.
That's a good quote by Jay. The ocean can go fuck itself.
The ocean, the closest thing to monsters live in the ocean.
Yeah,
There
like
are things
sharks.
that will eat you.
I know you got a
whole.
problem with sharks.
Yeah, well, of course. Who doesn't? Anybody that watched Jaws, most people that
Yeah,
watch
but
Jaws.
I think a lot of that comes from media training you to be scared of.
Yeah.
Scared of
Shark
sharks.
Week.
Most-
scary.
They're
the
scary
vast-
looking, but they're
The
not
vast
necessarily,
majority, I've swum with nurse sharks and scuba
Yeah, they're
diving.
fine.
Most sharks, the vast majority of sharks are totally not dangerous in any way.
I agree, Bob.
Um,
Sharks are not bad animals, but
Yeah.
some of them can bite
Some of them are
pieces of you out
assholes.
that are big enough to instantly
Sure.
kill you.
Yeah, I know.
And even worse,
Yeah.
who wants to be chewed on while you're alive? Yeah, what are you, laser eraser here with the, right, Bob?
Oh my God, you remember that? Holy shit.
Of course.
Well, now we got to explain it.
Push button and laser eraser. This was a
Comic from decades ago.
from the 70s.
Yeah, so she was just like, it's sci-fi. This guy, so she's just like, what? Just like
She's like an assassin.
She's like an assassin. Her buddy is a cyborg who has human flesh from here up. Most of his body is robotic.
How much of it do you remember?
Cool. I remember how he got that way.
Yes.
He was
Slowly eaten
he
by...
was a sentient plant, an alien plant that started eating him from his feet and was speaking to him like in a British accent and apologizing the whole way he was eating his body. And he was finally saved when this much of his body was. So and now he's got a robot.
So the people that built his robot body gave him a button on his chest, and if you push it, he has an orgasm in his head. And so his name is Push Button, and her name is Laser Eraser.
Right? And one of his jobs is to kill people who want to be killed. So people will like enter an agreement with him. All right, here's money. You can kill me, now. And then his right arm was like a big blade, and he would just hack him to crap.
I want to see if it exists. I'm going to see if.
Oh yeah, I still have the comics.
Guillotine bot. All right, should we get to?
It's recommended.
Some Monsatan.
Sure.
If my 30-year-old memories are accurate.
We'll do a semi-react stream. Like people kind of want a takedown, or not takedown, but like an explainer, really.
This one has a backstory.
So Veritasium, he's been on the show. He's a friend of the show. A lot of good science comes out of his channel.
Great science. I mean,
this one we got a lot of emails about, a lot of comments. It's talking about Monsanto and that whole thing. So let's give a little bit of the precursor of this, and then we can stop it and tell me when you want to stop.
October evening in 2016, an Arkansas farmer was sitting in his pickup truck just outside his field, and he was growing impatient. Suddenly, another car pulled up beside him, so the farmer got out. Seconds later, he was murdered. The farmer's name was Mike Wallace. He wasn't killed over money or land. He was killed over a herbicide, a chemical designed to destroy weeds. This herbicide spread fear through rural America, turning farmers against each other, all because it belonged to a certain company.
This company's policies, they pitted farmer against farmer, and they could just send henchmen to your door. Even if you just had the wrong seeds in your field, they could send you to court and bankrupt you.
In effect, they had a farmland monopoly. They owned more than 80% of the seeds planted in the United States.
And to get this monopoly, they played the legal system,
colluding with corrupted EPA officials,
twisted scientific evidence,
appears to have been caught red-handed.
But the chemicals they were making destroyed the health of communities all over the world.
This is a video about Monsanto, one of the biggest agricultural companies in the world. Our investigation is based on publicly available documents, recordings, and third-party opinions. All sources are linked in the description.
All right, you want to say anything up until that? There's obviously a lot of precursor claims that are thrown
we can't
out.
watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, but that sets the tone of the video, and that's my problem with it, is that it's setting up this scary narrative and missing a lot of nuance. It's like Monsanto's evil, they do bad, evil things, and that's the whole story from beginning to end, and everything is driven by their quest for money and dominance and whatever. But there are two claims, basically, that I want to zero in on, which I think are the most problematic. One is that Monsanto sued farmers for trivial reasons, like accidental contamination or whatever. And like at one point, Veritasium is like reading the user agreement as if it's something really bizarre. And he says, in fact, that it's bizarre. But basically what the user agreement was you can't steal our seeds. That was basically the user agreement, right? And he's saying, like, you cannot clean or resell or replant the seeds. Yeah, that's right, because that's stealing the technology, right? You can't do that. And he made it seem like that somehow that was something nefarious. And then there's a big section where he's talking about the efforts that Monsanto went to in order to enforce its patent.
Right.
And sure, were they heavy-handed at times? Were there false positives or whatever? Sure. Again, they're a company jealously looking after their patents, their source of income. But here's the thing. Monsanto investigated something like 150 farmers for possible patent infringement. They only brought 9 to court, and they won every case because they were correct, because the farmers were actually trying to steal their seed. So here's the thing. It's worse, and it's worse than just like an isolated incident of stealing their seed. So you have to understand that if you're a seed company with a proprietary seed, whatever it is, and remember, before GMOs, there was 98% of the seeds planted in the United States were hybrid seeds. And
hybrid.
You cannot replant hybrids. You cannot save the seeds and replant them. So that was already a done deal. This idea that these poor farmers can't replant seeds. They don't want to freaking save their seeds and replant them. That's a lot of work. It's very...
And it didn't work with the hybrids.
And you can't do it for most of the seeds that you want to be planting anyway.
What a straw man.
So
Wow.
yeah, it was non-issue. It was a total non-issue. And so telling farmers you can't save and replant these seeds was not a big deal. But here's the thing. If your product is something that is potentially self-replicating, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, for example, a software company saying, you cannot copy and freely redistribute our software, right?
Right.
Are they being evil for enforcing their patent?
Well, someone asked, like, is it okay for them to have a patent on nature?
That's a different.
That's a
claim.
different question.
Let's wait for that.
Yeah, I just wanted to-
It's a good one to put
We
in on
can
it.
get to that, but
Let's get onto that.
First of all,
Yeah,
that's
go
the
ahead.
decision our country has made. It's saying a patent on nature is misleading.
Yeah, it is.
It's not a patent on nature. It's a patent on a unique, genetic sequence that you produce through R&D. And
invested millions of dollars.
And so we made the choice that we are going to reward companies that invest millions in R&D with a limited patent, so they could make their money back on the R&D. Otherwise, who's going to do it? Who's going to invest hundreds of millions of dollars? Say we make the same deal with the pharmaceutical industry. So you can question that deal that society is making with companies who have to spend millions in R&D, but that's the choice we've made for now, and that's the system that we are operating under. You can't patent genes if they are unique, if you have made them so that they don't occur in nature or whatever. So anyway.
But it's like even the opposite. It's like if the government owned it, like they would say, do the same scare tactic, right? It's like, you want the government owning nature, right? So it's like, what does it matter if it's a
Well, this
company?
thing, everything should be open source. It's like,
Right.
okay, then no one's going to invest the money to research it.
Yeah,
But anyway, so these farmers, some of these farmers were not just like stealing the seed on the sly and then go, oh, you got me. Okay, here you go. They were claiming patent exhaustion. They were claiming in court that Monsanto's patent on the seed was no longer valid because it was the next generation.
Oh, okay.
It only counts for the first generation. And then if I save the seed, then I own that seed. I own every downstream.
But that had to have been covered in the contract.
Of course it was. That's why they made the contracts that way.
Yeah, it's an obvious
Well, first
thing
of all,
to put
it's
in there.
covered in the law. It's covered in the patent law, but then they made it explicit in the contracts, which is why then they were saying, oh, look how awful these contracts are. I was like, no, they're just saying our patent is not exhausted because you replant our seeds. Or you
Right.
also can't clean the seeds and sell them to somebody else.
And
to
they
replant.
signed the contract. I mean, right?
But even people who didn't sign the contract, like even if you don't sign the contract,
It's
you
against
can't
the law.
steal software and then
Right.
copy it, or videos or whatever it is, anything copyable, right? It's not a product; it's something that's just information, and you can copy it. So seeds kind of fall under that because they're self-reproducing.
Right.
So they were vigorously legally challenging anyone who was claiming patent exhaustion by, oh, it blew into, I didn't take it blew into my farm, therefore I own it. No, you don't own it. It's still a patented product. Now, at some point, Monsanto said in one of these cases, we will not and do not sue farmers for trivial, accidental, like inadvertent contamination.
Yeah.
And they didn't, and they never have. But that kind of cut both ways. It also meant that farmers couldn't sue Monsanto for doing it, right? And a judge actually said, all right, you're saying that in court, we're holding you to that. That is, you are now legally bound to follow that thing that you just said. And they were like, fine.
About not suing for trivial...
Not suing for,
Right.
for
What's
inadvertent
trivial, though?
trivial
But isn't there an
contamination.
explicit claim in this video where that you could destroy a farmer by planting some seeds?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's theoretically speaking. Like if I as a farmer wanted to destroy another farmer, I could plant seeds in their field, like my GMO seeds in their field, and then sick Monsanto after them.
Right.
Did that ever happen, or was that just a theoretical thing?
Slippery slope.
So the case that he talks about was a farmer who Monsanto was investigating. They never found any evidence that he did anything bad, and they never sued him. But the question is, how harassing were they in the meantime?
Right.
It's like, he has his story to tell. Monsanto's like, we never took him to court or anything. We just wanted the information. Mm-hmm. So Monsanto, their problem is, how do they know? How do they know if somebody's stealing their seeds?
Right.
Because canola is canola, corn is corn, or whatever. So they wanted to know, there was they can only infer it. Like if you're spraying your entire crop with glyphosate, you probably have glyphosate-resistant seeds, right? Mm-hmm. So they were looking for that information that they could use to detect, to infer people were stealing their seeds. And I'm sure they were a pain in the ass to the farming community. But again, this is, now, and so, again, I've read really good articles about this, including from lawyers and farmers and whatever. The thing is, again, nobody was ever sued for seeds being blown over from another field or anything like that. It was only when they deliberately tried to take the seed or concentrate it. So let's say the seed does blow into your field. Then you treat it with glyphosate and then only replant the resistant seeds. That's not accidental, right?
Right.
That was one famous case. That was very deliberate. And then say, well, this is mine because it blew into my field. That's patent exhaustion. Of course they're going to sue over that. And they won every case where they actually brought it to court. Because no, our patent is valid. Our patent doesn't go away because somebody stole our seed or it blew into their field or whatever. But listen, there's a balance here. There's a balance between protecting the farmers so that they don't have too much of a burden proving constantly that they're not stealing seed. Protecting patents, which are this way the system works, and protecting the public good, right? We obviously want the whole system to work for everybody, the farmers, the companies who make the seeds, and the consumers, right? Everybody. And there's, individual states passed individual laws, experimenting with how exactly to have that balance, setting up commissions or whatever, providing protections for farmers, providing protections for companies. It's a balance. There's a lot of nuance here. But this idea that it's just an evil corporation harassing farmers over nothing, accidental contamination, is a bullshit narrative. It's a totally bullshit narrative that misses all the nuance and is being very selective in its reporting. You could spend as much time talking about all the cases where people were really trying to steal seeds and to steal the technology and claim patent exhaustion and make a completely different narrative out of those cases.
And change the music.
Change the music, absolutely.
Background music.
Happy music.
All right. The other big thing that I had a huge problem with was the end of the video. When he talks about glyphosate causing non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And the thing is, a lot of what they're saying about what Monsanto did is true. Again, I'm not defending Monsanto. I'm not defending corporations. I'm just saying you've got to look at the whole picture. And at the end of the day, there is a scientific answer to certain questions. So what I think, again, I'm not saying there weren't bad people at Monsanto. I think they panicked, and all their attempts at damage control backfired, is how I would characterize it. Their attempts at damage control then became a problem unto themselves, right? Where they were heavily trying to put their thumb on the scale. But if we factor that out and say, at the end of the day, if we look at just the non-Monsanto funded objective scientific evidence, what can we say? There really is no link between glyphosate and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. It just doesn't exist. And meanwhile, billions of dollars has been awarded to people over the claim that it does. And you could make a story out of that. The companies have been brought to heel through bad science. Now there was one. They talked about the IARC, which we talked about on the show. We've written about on Science-Based Medicine when the IARC said it's a probable carcinogen, and that was roundly criticized. He said these 5 studies, roundly criticized it, and this one was funded by Monsanto. Yeah, but the other 4 weren't, and the problem was that in the middle of that IARC review, the biggest systematic review and meta-analysis of studies came out, and they chose not to include it in their review. And this was the best evidence we had, which showed no association.
Why put the best evidence in there? I mean, it's just the best.
So that's why they were criticized. They deliberately didn't include the best evidence. And again, I've said this many times, they take a hazard approach, not a risk approach.
Right.
Like it's a possible carcinogen. That's not saying nothing about dose or exposure. The only, I think, still slightly open question is if at the highest dose exposures, which is basically just farm workers working with glyphosate, right? Not the public, not eating it, not downwind or whatever, but like if you have industrial exposure because you're not using safety mechanisms or whatever, is there an association there? Even there's no convincing evidence.
Okay.
Even there, the evidence is probably not, but I don't know that we could 100% close the door on that. Of course, if you jack the dose up high enough on anything, it's a toxin.
So is this,
but all these thousands of people and billions of things, I doubt that any of them really got their lymphoma from exposure to glyphosate.
now this is more specific to Roundup, right? Roundup is a critical.
Well, Roundup is a brand name, and Roundup was glyphosate, but now Roundup doesn't contain glyphosate anymore. It contains something, an older actually.
240.
I have one experience with Roundup. Our mom was like, Bob, there's weeds in the back porch. Let's kill those weeds. And so I'm like, oh, maybe we'll just get some weed killer. So we're at Home Depot, and there's some $11 Roundup thing. So I grabbed it, like, oh yeah, let's do this. Then I get home and I read the instructions, and I was too scared to use it.
Yeah.
It was like,
It's all the protective cover your
of
ass
course,
stuff,
because of those lawsuits.
Yeah, of course.
Right, but reading that made me not want to use it for such a trivial. I'd rather get on my hands and knees and pull all those weeds. And you got to put
Well, this is
gloves
the other
and masks,
thing.
and if there's any it touches your skin or your eyes,
It's
it was
all-
scary.
Risk is all relative, and it's all
Right.
risk versus benefit. And so
Yep.
we have essentially this
Dose makes the
theoretical.
poison.
Glyphosate is actually a very safe. This is the tragedy here. It's a very safe herbicide. It's probably safer than anything else out there. And this issue. Yes, we need to very carefully and independently examine any potential problem, right? And he talked about the problem with dioxin contamination of the other herbicide. And that was legit, and they tried to cover it up, and that was bad. I'm not saying anything about that, but the issue is glyphosate has really been demonized for political reasons by lawyers partly suing, to make money, which he treats as like their word is gold, right? But these are lawyers who are making money off of suing companies for this. And yet the herbicides that are going to replace it are almost certainly more toxic. So this has in my opinion, a negative effect. It's the same thing where you talk about, like, organic farming doesn't use these pesticides. They use other pesticides and that are probably more toxic.
And they have to use
it more often and in higher doses.
Yeah,
And so, but you never see a comparison of the two, because no one's studying the organic pesticides, because that's what's the point of that. They're trying to, again, build this case against their competitor.
Right.
So
Mainstream
you have to, that's the thing. But this is an issue where you need to take an objective look at everything. And it's okay to say that Monsanto did these things that were wrong and that whatever but there should be some balance here, and there was no balance in that video.
But Steve,
none whatsoever.
If you say glyphosate is safe, why wouldn't you drink a glass of it?
Sir, you can drink a whole quart of it and it
Well, that
won't
was
hurt
just a
you.
stupid thing for him to say.
You want to drink some? We have some here.
I'd be happy to, actually, but not really. But
Not really?
I know it wouldn't hurt
what
me.
the hell is he
If
talking
you
about?
say so, I have some glyphosate.
No, I'm not stupid.
But they very
So clearly that's a bad look from somebody trying to defend Monsanto. But at the same time, it's
that's just a stupid person.
stunt.
it's a silly stunt anyway.
I'll drink it. Okay, we have some. Well, I'm not stupid. It's like, dude, what
The
are
thing
you
is,
doing?
listen,
It's ridiculous.
saying that it's safe as used doesn't mean you could drink a glass of it. There's tons of stuff in our world that we use safely that I wouldn't drink a glass of.
Yeah, so
like
probably make you
bleach
sick.
or whatever. I mean,
It's just not. Yeah.
it's just it's a ridiculous
Straw man
stunt,
argument.
and the guy fell for it and then realized
Yeah.
he kind of got himself backed into a corner. It was just dumb.
So
I was reading the SGU subreddit, and one guy was giving some, real anecdotal information, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
but he was like, farmers, when they use these chemicals, they literally are stirring it with their arms, in giant buckets of,
Well, don't do that.
No, you shouldn't do it. But the point is, there are people who have high exposure to this chemical and to other chemicals, and we're not seeing like any rampant, cancer happening with farmers and all that stuff. But the bottom line is, we have to follow what the scientists say and the experts say. Again, you can't listen to someone who makes a documentary and starts off with the whole fear mongering thing and
Yeah.
everything. The only thing that matters is legitimately and objectively what is the truth, and the only way to get at that is through science.
Yeah, and again, there are some legitimate points in there though too. Which is again, part of the problem of going all in on like the Monsanto conspiracy theory kind of thing is that the legitimate points get lost,
Yeah.
because of the whole tone. But yes, we need to make sure that there's absolute transparency, that companies can't secretly fund research or secretly edit or write the papers. We have to make sure that they can't put their thumb on the scale in any way, that the research is truly independent. We have to make sure that there is a firewall between regulators and the regulated. Absolutely. These things are true, and they need, they need vigilance, and they need, smart regulatory rules to keep these things from happening. We're, of course, in the middle of the opposite happening. The Trump administration is eroding all of these protections in favor of industry.
Yeah.
Which is
fucked.
crazy.
So I mean, there's a couple other things that they included here, which kind of lend to the kind of conspiracy thing. Is one, there's the crop mafia, or as they said in the beginning, Mike Wallace, who was a farmer who got killed by another farmer.
This is just two farmers fighting.
His neighbor, who was also growing soybean,
and things
did
went
use
south.
Monsanto system.
Right.
Now, to be clear, this
They're
herbicide
trying to blame
glyphosate
Monsanto for
itself.
that. It's
Right.
ridiculous.
So that's the question. It's like, what does
Yeah,
that
he
have to do
opens
with
with that. He
Monsanto?
opens
He
with
opens
that,
with it.
with that
It's
apparent
like-
murder.
Like they were pitted against each other by Monsanto. I mean, the story was that one guy was using glyphosate and glyphosate-resistant crops. The other guy was not, and the glyphosate was blowing into his field and destroying some of his crops. It's like, okay, there are ways to deal with that. You build a line of trees, whatever. You're careful on what days
Yeah.
you do it. So you could work that out. But they met. They got into a fight. One gun came out, and one guy killed the other guy. I mean, how is that anyone's, the company's fault? That's ridiculous.
And Veritasium as a science communicator, I think a lot of people have watched his shows. I've watched a ton
Yeah,
of
he's
them.
got awesome stuff.
So he, quite obviously, I could just see two motivations, Steve. Maybe you could think of more. One of them is he got fooled.
I think it's what we're seeing is the difference between a science communicator
And a
and a
skeptic.
skeptical communicator. I think that's what the difference that
Yeah,
we're seeing.
so I think
here.
that's probably the 90%er. I mean, the other one, I've seen people make accusations that he's being paid,
But
for
the-
this and all that. and that guy-
I
the
mean,
Monsanto narrative, though, is so out there. I know many skeptics who fell for it too, like the Monsanto's evil. It's like, yeah, but you got to really, really do a deep dive to see where the nuance is and where the because there's no clean narrative here. Yes, they did bad stuff. Yes, they put their thumb on the scale. Yes, they used heavy-handed thuggery tactics. But no, but they are legitimate in their defense of their patent. And they did not sue over trivial contamination. And it turns out glyphosate is actually pretty safe, and that these lawsuits are probably bogus. But those all can be true at the same time.
So
And
what
it
do you-
creates a complicated, nuanced narrative.
What do you
Not
wanna
something
do,
you could
Steve?
put music over and make it to like bum bum bum.
Do you want to get him on the show and
I'll
talk
have him
about
on
it?
the show and talk about it. Yeah, if he wants to come on.
All right. We
Now,
will get in
there
touch
is
with
some
him.
history, right, of corporations kind of doing shady stuff and
Of course,
harming their
I
workers.
assume that they do shady stuff.
Like,
Again,
yeah.
I'm not defending corporations or saying they don't do shady stuff.
course.
I'm assuming that they are going to do super shady things unless they are carefully regulated.
Yeah.
Our position is not everything's okay. It's companies need to be properly regulated. But if you come at it from a conspiracy angle, you're going to miss the real issues.
Yep.
Right? If you come at it with simplistic things like you can't patent nature, it's like, well, that doesn't get us anywhere. We've already decided you can. So first of all, that you have to deal with that fact. If you're going to beat your head against that wall, go right ahead. You're going to miss the real issues that are going on, though. And also, a lot of these things are not patented, and the patents run out. They're not forever. So we're beyond all of these glyphosate, patents, right? There's not even an issue anymore. Like the glyphosate one, I think ran out in 2000. So just like with drugs, the patent always eventually runs out on drugs as well. But anyway, that's a different conversation, and it's not unique to GMOs. It's not unique to Monsanto. It's a separate issue about how do we balance, again, the right of the public, the interest of the public versus the interests of companies versus, how we fund research. Hey, if you want the government to fund all research, fine. Double our taxes, give billions of dollars to organizations like the NIH to fund all the research through experts, and then you get an asshole like Trump in and will fuck it all up in one year. There's no answer here. There are only trade-offs. And I always like spreading out the trade-offs as much as possible so that no one entity can game the system too much. We don't want the government to be in total control. We don't want corporations to be in total control. We don't want the public to be in total control. We don't want lawyers to be in total control. We want a balance of all of those factors and transparently, honestly, so it kind of works out in the end. You have a compromise, which no one's going to be totally happy with. That's the definition of a fucking compromise.
Yeah.
There's no perfect answer for any one person here. But framing it all as good versus evil and Monsanto or whatever is childish, and it misses the actual issues of contention that we actually have to work on, and that do get hammered out in court. And you can read those cases if you want to. It's all out there. It's not the bullshit that we're hearing, on social media generally. It's more nuanced. When you actually have experts and lawyers and industry people hammering out details, reasonable compromises get made, and it's fine.
And what about the angle? Is it worth mentioning the obvious angle, at least from our point of view, that GMOs are critically important and in the future will be even more important? I mean, I've read studies that say that if we want to feed humanity in 2050, if we don't have GMOs, we are screwed.
Yeah, it's not
right.
gonna happen.
It's a critical technology that will have a body count if it's actually regulated out of existence.
Well, I think what happens is, like, for example, in Hawaii, when the papaya was dying due to a fungus, I think, or whatever.
No, it's a virus.
A virus. They Hawaii very quietly accepted the fact that they're now using.
GMO papayas saved the Hawaiian papaya industry.
The whole entire industry.
They quietly carved out an exception for it because it was either that or the papaya industry goes away. And they're like, GMOs are evil. We're anti-GMO. Except for this one over here. That is critical to our agriculture.
Look at that.
Same thing like Vermont. Yep. Same thing. They quietly carve out an exception for the cheese industry because there would be no cheese industry without GMO yeast making the rennet that we need to make the cheese. And so
that's not common knowledge right there.
Right. It's not common knowledge. They carve out these exceptions for things that are really economically of interest to them. Screw everybody else. But the industry that we really care about, we will carve out exceptions for.
The only other thing I wanted to say about the narrative building that he did in here is that they also did bring up Agent Orange, which
was bad.
Which was obviously very bad. Killed, uncountable number of people. But it seems like a lot of that was that there was another chemical, and there was also that dioxin.
Dioxin was a contaminant.
Was the contaminant, and that the fact that glyphosate was also in it is kind of
no, it wasn't glyphosate. It was the other one.
2,4-D. You're right.
It was 2,4-D with a tiny dioxin contaminant, but even in those tiny doses, it's really toxic.
Right.
So that was the problem.
You're right.
And he presents the narrative that Monsanto knew it and kind of hid it, which if true is despicable and they deserve whatever, come up and say get for that. But it has nothing to do with the GMO issue. It has nothing to do with the glyphosate issue.
It's just kind of
poisoning the well.
Right, exactly. That these
Somebody in the
corporations
chat said we've been genetically modifying crops and livestock for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Thousands of years.
This is
way
just a better
longer
way
than
to
that.
do it.
No, but
it's
it's
transgenic versus cisgenic, right? Or like
so
even that.
but
Go
yeah,
ahead.
so it's different methods, and you have to
methods.
evaluate different methods differently. But it is, I mean, that's a good pushback against the. It should only be what's in nature. Like nothing we eat is as it was before we started messing with it. We've completely altered almost everything that we eat. Like there's literally like a single digits of food that's regularly consumed that we didn't massively cultivate and alter genetically. But but they said, but that doesn't mean anything about cisgenic versus transgenic. It's like, okay, explain to me the problem with transgenic GMOs then. What objectively is the problem other than your ick factor gut reaction? Again, transgenic basically means you're taking a gene from a species that ordinarily would not be able to interbreed with the cultivar that you're making.
Like a
the
fish
GMO
to
that
a
you're
plant.
making. Like a fish to a plant.
Fish
Now,
tomato.
the thing is, that doesn't mean that there's no way that gene could ever get in there because there is horizontal gene transfer. A virus can take a gene from anything and put it into anything else. And in fact, it happens on the regular. So it's not literally true that there's no way that gene could ever get in there, but it couldn't happen through any kind of breeding, right? It would have to be horizontal gene transfer through viruses. So what's the difference? Again, explain to me why we should be more worried about taking a gene from a fish and putting it into my crop versus taking it from another plant. They're just genes. They make proteins, and those proteins do stuff.
But wouldn't that make it taste fishy, Steve?
People think that.
No, that's crazy.
And it's not true. It's like but it's from the fish though. It has the essence of a fish in some way. It's like, first of all, we share 60% of our genes with bananas. So what's a banana gene and what's a human gene?
That explains a lot.
It's a false dichotomy. Like there is no reason scientifically to think that there is any more risk to a trans gene than a cis gene. It's just a way to raise the ick factor for people. And so it's a non-issue. It's all about, well, what's the protein? What does it do? Is it a risk? And in fact, GMOs are a lot safer historically because we know exactly what protein. If you just cross two plants, you get hundreds or thousands of new proteins. And there are documented cases where that has introduced proteins into the food stream that cause toxicity or cause allergy or whatever. Whereas it's never happened with a GMO because we have more control over what protein is getting introduced into the new plant. It's actually a superior technology, and it's a safer technology.
Well, Steve, I'm sorry, that doesn't fit my narrative, so I reject what you just
And
said.
sometimes plants breed together, and you can look at the plant, and there's eyeballs.
Yes.
I mean, come on, man, who wants that?
Here's the thing that kills me. Just my one last thing, and we'll go on. People who rant against GMOs, it's like, so you're okay with mutation farming. They've never heard of it usually.
Yeah.
What's mutation farming? Well, about 30% of the food you eat is a result of mutation farming. They literally, remember that Simpsons episode?
Expose it to radiation.
Yeah, they literally use either
radiation.
chemicals or radiation to accelerate the mutations, the random mutations. Then they plant, hundreds of the
And see what comes up.
And see what comes up. And maybe, most of them are crap. Maybe one is good, It's just, that's you feel more comfortable with that?
It's inefficient.
Radiation-treated mutation farming rather than a very specific insertion of a specific gene?
It's inefficient, less focused, and sometimes you get eyeballs. I mean, nobody wants that.
So we got a couple questions or statements. Go
ahead.
Wasn't the Monsanto that created Agent Orange a different company from the now Monsanto? I looked this up. And
Monsanto, I think, just was one of the companies that was contracted by the Army to produce it.
Yeah, this is from the businessandhumanrights.org.
Me.
Your mileage may vary with this one, but it was a wartime government contractor who manufactured Agent Orange. The government set the specifications. The new Monsanto, quote unquote, was spun off as an agricultural company, but it still maintained Agent Orange for the U.S. government. So it's basically the same company. They just happen to also do agriculture. Somebody was also saying, why was
it was a different department.
Different department, yeah. Why was every single news source used by Russia Today, which is an interesting point about Russia, because they're very anti-GMO, right?
But no. They are, but that's not their real purpose. Russia Today is anti corporate.
Oh, that's true.
Right, so they are trying to say that capitalism is evil, and so they amplify any story about the excesses of and the evils of capitalism, and GMOs are just doubling down on a convenient target. It is not really that they are necessarily.
But Russia is
anti-GMO.
anti-GMO.
Yeah, but I think
right?
again, it's because they don't have the technology, so they're just. Oh, we could demonize this technology that the West has over us. Yeah. Great, let's do that. Right? That's like saying if you don't have nuclear weapons, we're anti-nuclear. Well, you don't have them in the first place. You know what I mean? It's just, but Russia today, they will jump on any story that puts American companies in a bad light.
Yeah.
Period.
Well, yeah, I think certainly against America. But I mean, Russia's pretty capitalistic too, right? I don't think they're not a communist country. Like,
yeah,
whatever.
but not,
okay.
They're probably more socialist now, but.
Yeah, okay, whatever. We'll get it. Any other questions? Let's see if we. Oh, somebody said is paper banana. What was that? Wait, Steve, is paper banana? Like, how related is a tree to a banana?
I mean, the 60% thing is basically all multicellular creatures.
Oh, yeah.
Right. There's like just sort of basic genetic, machinery in there. Like you can't get much farther apart than an animal and a plant. Like we're different kingdoms.
Yes.
So. We all share about, just again, if it's multicellular, you're going to share about 60% of your genes.
Oh, yeah, and Monsanto was bought by Bayer in 2018?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Something like
so
that.
You don't see the name anymore because they are, absorbed.
Yeah, and Bayer had to pay off all those lawsuits.
Right.
And they are trying to rehabilitate that division, and whatever, it's fine. I mean, the thing is, it's a legitimate business. I think they were hoping that it was the name that was demonized and they could sort of, whitewash it.
Probably not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
All right. Well, so Derek, shout out to you, but also how you come on the show, and maybe we could discuss this further.
No, we should be able to talk about these things in a very cordial way. Just get to the truth because that's what matters. And these are complicated topics. Yeah. When it comes to, I don't fault people for missing nuance on complicated topics as long as they're open to input and correction and more information and revising their position. When they really sort of like double down on some kind of moral standing and then
pride more than anything else,
then it's a problem.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, well, this video has gotten a lot of reaction. There's like some difference in the comments, but it seems like a lot of people are kind of on the side of you're revealing the truth, unfortunately.
But, that's just the internet.
How many views?
4 million in 2 days or something.
Wow.
4 days, sorry. August 31st. So, I mean, obviously, Veritasium gets crazy views.
Oh, yeah.
Good for him, but, or them, because it's a bunch of people. But anyway, come on the show. All right, let's move on to some other stuff. What else we got on the docket? We got, other fun stuff? Yeah, maybe we can do some other fun stuff. Do you want to do your favorite guy?
We could do that. His fucking guy.
I love his shtick, man.
His shtick is Bob's favorite. If I can find the mouse. Okay, here we go. Where is he? There I go. Mushroom? No, not that guy. Screw that guy. There we go.
Somebody wants to know what it would take for us to sell out to a corporate overlord. He's like 3 million, 30 million.
Are you making an offer?
Yeah. Offer we can't refuse.
30 million
is that
each?
Net?
Sharon, if you want to talk about bread, text me and we'll set up a time to get on the phone, and I will help you in any way possible.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, this guy, I don't like this guy.
Why?
I don't know why you
Bob
guys like
loves
him.
this
He's
guy.
adorable.
I don't think he's funny.
adorable.
I think he's stupid.
I think it's a funny shtick. Whatever.
Agree to disagree.
What's the shtick? Maybe this is who he really is.
What?
No, he's got a shtick. I mean, it's repeated in every damn video
That
he
might
does.
be who he is.
Yeah, all
right?
Here we go.
What's that? Oh, scientists have recently discovered that your consciousness can jump timelines and actually warn you about things that could be coming up in your future? Tell me more! Yeah, scientists have actually recently discovered groundbreaking information, and they're talking about how when you get a gut feeling that it's actually your consciousness that had jumped timelines into a future event and then came back and tried to warn you of this event. Okay? Now, it's not only just bad things that could happen to you that they're warning you about. This could be things that could put you on a path that could make you successful or get married or find the right person. Okay. This was originally thought to be just your intuition trying to lead you in the right direction. But now they're saying that this, of course, is actually your consciousness that has jumped timelines. Oh, goody. What's crazy is these gut feelings can actually tell you how to avoid death. Oh, I love it.
Okay,
So
Bob.
I think I found this study that this whole thing was based on.
Well, how he doesn't give any references, so how are you supposed to know?
I know, but you do your research and you can get some good. You tell me.
Well, there's a lot of studies you could be referring to. Just put it that way.
Well, I think then this one looks pretty solid in my opinion. So this is from 2000 study I found. Dean Radin from the Institute of Noetic Sciences. So I mean, if you know anything about that's red alert. So the name of the study is Evidence for an Anomalous Anticipatory Effect in the Autonomic Nervous System. So people were presented with basically a random showing of calming images and like emotional images, and they did a galvanic skin response just to see what kind of reaction your body was having to these images, and they found that in a certain percentage, some people seemed to anticipate a coming emotional image, like they could sense that it was coming, even though they should have had no way to know what was coming. So that's it. That's the entirety of the research. That's basically what happened there. So it's essentially this is time reversal causality, like something. This is what the claim is morphed into. That that somehow your consciousness from the future can communicate with yourself now. Of course it's crazy stuff. So the cons are what you would expect. There's a small effect size. It's very small. They say it's statistically significant, but it's a very small effect size. Some of the statistical techniques, including like the p-values, have been criticized in the past. And some people say that the whole idea of the skin conductance technique is rife with potential problems like noise. Your attitude, your body position, the environment can change it, so it could impact the result. They did a few other studies seem to support some of this evidence, but I think they did a meta-analysis about 10 years ago, and they corrected the effect size. And it showed essentially a zero effect. So I mean, just what you would expect from this type of stuff. And then I found this on Popular Mechanics. So Popular Mechanics recently was touting this, and this is the title from Popular Mechanics: Your consciousness can jump through time, meaning gut feelings are memories from the future, scientists say. And then for the subtitle, even the CIA has publicly released data on the psychic phenomenon.
So Popular Mechanics?
Popular Mechanics. If I didn't let my digital subscription lapse, I would have canceled it today because of that title. Clearly, they've succumbed. They've succumbed to the slippery slope of like.
But this is a
clicks.
problem with so a couple of things. You're like just saying like scientists.
Right.
What scientists are they really saying that? Like this guy's whole approach of it's a black box. Scientists say this. Now they're saying this.
Right.
As opposed to like going even one or two levels deeper, like, well, which scientist? And of course, like we know, like it's not just Dean Radin, who's a notorious, ESP crank, but there was also the Feeling the Future research by Daryl Bem, who's also a notorious crank, who like literally wrote the book on bad research technique. This is all p-hacking nonsense. It can't be replicated by reputable scientists. It's always these tiny effect sizes,
and also the icing on the cake is that it's ridiculous on its face. Its face that you're sensing the future, or even worse, your future self is communicating with yourself. It's like, come on.
Yeah, but even if we put plausibility aside, the data itself, the research is crap, and it doesn't replicate. Which is the death of any research question. If it doesn't replicate, it ain't real. Period.
Yeah, and if I were able to communicate with my past self, I wouldn't be I'd be giving more relevant information.
Yeah, then
you're about to see a disturbing picture.
Yes. Thanks, future self. No lotto numbers. Give me a break here. But yeah, I think this is probably what he's referring to. I mean, he could have been referring to some of the follow-up studies that were done.
I think it's probably just that Popular Mechanics article.
Yeah, it's probably that article. But even the Popular Mechanics article is probably referring to not only this original study, it seems from 2000, but a couple of other studies that seem to replicate,
It's only among the pseudoscientists, though.
Right. I didn't look deeply into the other studies, but I wouldn't be surprised at all. But no big effect, very small effect size, and criticisms.
There's no effect. Like at the end of the day, there's zero effect. Like once you work out all, like the thing about
like that meta-analysis.
Remember about p hacking, is and like Daryl Bem again did a lot of this research, and whenever you look closely at this research, they do what's called p hacking, meaning that they look at the data multiple different ways, and they're to try
after the fact too. After
the fact, they torture the data until it confesses, basically, and that's what we call p hacking. Now, when you do an exact replication, by definition, you can't do that because you have to follow the protocol exactly. And then that fails. That fails because you're not p-hacking, because there was never any effect there. Once you eliminate p-hacking, the effect goes away. That's why there's a failure to replicate. The effect was never real. It was just bad research methodology, and those guys are notorious for bad research methodology.
Done.
End of story.
What else got over there, Ian?
All right, so we got some other fun stuff before we get onto the TikToks. We got Avi Loeb.
That
I don't know
guy
if you want to talk about this guy more and more, but it's like he keeps coming up in the news.
Why don't you tell the audience who he is?
He's some guy. He's an
guy,
astrophysicist from Harvard who, when he became famous when Oumuamua, which was the first confirmed interstellar object, was zipping through our solar system, and he said, there are some anomalies to how it's moving. Maybe it's an alien's probe, not a hunk of rock. Turned out to be nonsense. Then the second interstellar object was spotted, and he thought that might be an interstellar probe. So now we're in the middle of the third interstellar object and the first interstellar comet, and he's saying maybe that's an interstellar probe.
Oh yeah, he's just pushing that button over and
One
over.
of them's gotta be.
Now he has an institute to call things alien probes, and he's getting money to do that. And he just has a series of horrible arguments, and it's embarrassing. He's embarrassing himself, but he gives a lot of fodder for the media.
And he's writing a book. Did you hear? It's called "I Was Probed and You Should Be Too."
The media. I get to talk to a Harvard astrophysicist who's going to tell me that aliens are invading the Earth. Of course, they're going to buy into that hook, line, and sinker.
Somebody sent me a link to an article that said something to the effect of a new asteroid has been found and it weighs 49 Avi Loebs. Hilarious.
He's an asshole.
It's really a joke. And now Michio Kaku's jumping into this.
Are you surprised?
Oh
Bob,
my God. Of course not.
That guy's a toilet. He's so full of shit.
Michio Kaku?
Cuckoo.
God damn, that guy. He went sideways a long time ago, too.
This is not only an alien spaceship, but it's nuclear powered? Why are you saying that?
Well, thanks for having me. First, I should say that if the light that we observe from this object is reflection of sunlight, its size needs to be bigger than Manhattan Island, 20 kilometers or so. And there isn't enough rocky material in interstellar space to deliver a rock of that size earlier than 10,000 years from now. So the question is, what is it? And its orbit, the trajectory that it takes, is aligned with the plane of the planets around the sun to within 5 degrees. That's a chance of 1 in 500. And moreover, the timing
What does that tell you? What does that trajectory tell you?
Well, it indicates that perhaps it was designed by some intelligence.
That something's steering it.
Not necessarily, but the trajectory itself was chosen to be such that this object will pass close to Mars, Venus, and Jupiter. The chance of that happening, the timing of its arrival is perfect for that, with a likelihood of 1 in 20,000. And
you can stop there for a second.
Yeah.
we hit on these. The idea that there's not enough interstellar material that we would have seen 3 interstellar objects this close together. we don't know that. That's just a modeling inference. And now we have observational data. So I guess there's more rocks out there than we thought, right? I mean, that's the easier explanation than their alien spacecraft.
But I've come across some modeling that indicates we could potentially detect multiple per year.
Yeah,
Once the sensitivity is
he's
good.
cherry picking the modeling that fits his narrative. Then he talks about the glowing of it. It's like, okay, yes, it would have to be big. We know that it's pretty big. But I think he's talking about the coma itself. not
Yeah.
just right. Yeah. So that's still smaller than what he thought it was originally. Like his original argument was based on it being much, much bigger. He goes on to say it doesn't have a tail. It does have a tail.
It does have a tail.
It has a tail. It has a tail.
Ooh, look, a cometary object with a tail. Maybe it's a comet.
As it's
What
getting
the hell?
closer to the sun, the tail is growing.
Yeah,
and
but then when it gets behind the sun and we can't see it, who knows what's going to happen then? Oh,
then he says, okay, but it's like close to the plane of the solar system. Okay, so that means and therefore, and it's a low probability by chance. Like, okay, but every orientation is a low probability.
But isn't that under the street light? I mean, it's in our plane. If it was way out of our plane, would it be less likely that we would even see
no,
it?
We would still see it. We would still
all
see
right.
it.
What about some obvious shit though, Steve?
But the thing I want to finish that point though that he is retrofitting, right? He's looking for things and saying this is evidence that it's alien, but it didn't have to be. There could be any other. He could be looking at any other feature of it as well. He's just cherry picking things. But the thing is, what is he saying exactly? He's saying that the trajectory was chosen so that it was close to the plane of the solar system. But so how would that work though? So would the aliens decide this is what we need to send a probe to this system? And where are they? Right? And how far out are they?
Yeah, they could be many light years.
Let's say here's the plane
away
of the solar
millennia
system,
ago,
and they're up here. How are they going to have the probe come in from over here? Did they first send it down to our plane and then over?
Which means it can move itself, right? It would have to have its own propulsion.
Right, it would have to have. But anyway, it doesn't make any sense. The other thing is it's going close to Mars and Jupiter. Like, okay, so. It would have to go close to some planets if it was close.
If it's in our plane, it's going to pass by some planets, probably, right? And then each one would be extremely unlikely.
This one's unlikely, yeah. But what if it was coming? The Oumuamua, that's coming close to the Earth. That's because it's alien. This one's not coming close to the Earth. That's because it's alien.
Right.
So whatever happens, that's because it's alien.
And meanwhile,
any individual thing is inherently unlikely, but every permutation is unlikely.
And here's a quote you don't hear very often. In his original assessment, he said, the chances are overwhelming that this is a completely natural object. That's what he said.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that much more information now, really.
It's actually moved away from him. The information has moved in the direction of it being less likely to be
right.
alien.
But that quote, I mean, did he have a moment of lucidity when he wrote that? I mean, but nobody's saying that. Well, why did you say this? That it's overwhelmingly likely to be natural.
Look,
what made you? Whatever.
The only thing we know for sure here is that this guy is using this misinformation to get on the news.
Mm-hmm.
Like that
it's
is
working.
But think about that.
He's getting a lot of publicity.
Just think about the fact that he keeps coming out repeating the same bullshit idea. Gets on these news stations. Apparently he likes it, right?
Apparently.
It's way more likely.
Fuck apparently.
Way more likely that he is either lying or he's deluded than anything that he's saying is holds any weight.
Oh yeah. He's just, in my opinion, he's destroying any credibility that he has had. I've read some of his papers on techno signatures and things that were fascinating. I've talked about him on the show. But
off the deep end.
The past couple of years, it's just like, dude,
it's bad logic. It's bad science. It's bad logic.
Bad
He's not a
scientific skepticism.
It's all lottery fallacy, cherry picking.
Yeah.
So it's bad.
That's that with that guy, Ian.
That with that guy. All right. I don't know if you want to do RFK on Bill Maher, but
oh god,
it's so painful.
RFK is doing everything he can to destroy the vaccine infrastructure in America.
Yeah, and Bill Maher notoriously is the anti-vax, but even he pushes back a bit.
I would rather not. I don't want to hear that guy's voice.
He's also
either one of them.
Yeah, they all suck. here's just something that Elon Musk posted, which was like
His book sales are on fire.
Yeah,
Oh,
so it's like 7.2% of U.S. adults identify as LGBT, but specifically Zoomers are now up to like 19%. It seems like, or something like that, over 15%.
What about boomers?
And all the boomers are lower, but all the right wing are like, wow, it must be a real problem. What else could it possibly be? Do you guys think?
Well, it could be that people were hiding it, and not like even going there.
Oh, you think like a society that maybe oppresses people who are LGBT?
I think it's also just a loosening of the definition.
That too. The LGBTQIA, all that kind of stuff adds to it.
I think it's GMOs.
Clear Monsanto again. Anyway, so that's like a little hyperventilating on that sphere.
Well, Ian, have
of
you
transphobia.
considered the idea that maybe one of these, rocks coming in near the Earth, the gravity could be affecting a portion of the population to spontaneously wish they were in a different sex body?
I think Bob's right. It's all the trans genes and
It's
the
the
GMOs.
transgenic makes. There you go.
I mean, come on. Look at the words.
Look
people.
at the words in the word. Trains too. Think of trains.
Answers.
They're like one letter off.
When you tune in here, you're going to get the straight dope here, right? So Emmett, what if they have GMOs on these celestial bodies as they pass by, Steve?
That's true.
Yep.
Super GMOs.
Super GMO. That's how we got here, right? Isn't that panspermia? Anyway. All right. Well, we could move on to some TikToks. I think we're done with all the topics.
All right.
I know we had fun, but there are a bunch of TikToks we can do.
Oh, TikToking.
So another week goes by without bread?
No bread. Jay is supposed to make pumpernickel. I'm waiting for that.
Everything's on hold until Jay makes pumpernickel.
Basically,
do you want me to work on the new podcast or bake a loaf of bread?
Yes.
Next week, next week I'll buy bread.
No,
we can
you
eat
make
bread.
a bread. You have another bread in your.
We could judge
oven?
store bought. Why can't we do that once in a while?
Because
we got to make
bread. Just buy yourself bread and eat it, Bob.
Somebody make croissants or something.
I do, but we could also ought to eat it here.
Oh, that's true. All right, we'll figure it out.
All right, well,
keep you
everyone
posted.
have a great week.
All right, we're going to do our TikToks, so stay around chat.
Alrighty.
But Jay and Bob are leaving. Bob. And I'll do the hold music so everybody knows it's that time. All right, TikTok, picture in picture. Get those things out of there.
Anything that
You can stick needles into people's spine, and you can draw out fluid. And you
All right, see ya.
A billionaire patient. This guy comes in.
And there's this one too. All right, let's see. Steve is kind of in the right spot.
Am I good?
Oh, cool. Can you send me a word too, Jay? Thank you.
Yo.
Boom. All right, we got that going. Let's make sure that is not centered. Hold on.
What do I need to do? This way?
Maybe actually, just scooch over. It's fine. Hopefully, the chat won't freak out. That's not technically centered. Don't look at it. There we go. All right, that's good. Let me just make sure. I'm pretty sure this is not AI, this music chat, so I'm pretty sure.
Where do you get it from?
I got it from like Epidemic Sound, I think. So it's like they have all kinds of songs and stuff, I think. Either that or story blocks. But somebody was asking if it was AI. I don't think it's AI. I would never. At least for this stuff. All right, so let's move on to TikTok. Do you have a preference of which one you want to do
just
first?
hit me.
All right, hit me. Hit me. All right, stand by. I got to stop this recording and start. Boom. What was that thing we were talking about? Chat, you can hit us with some questions as we're going through this stuff. Time. Boom. All right, we got it. All right, we'll do this one first.
Gather round, kids. I've got a bedtime story for you. Once upon a time, the big people in charge wanted you to be scared of the planet. They told us the planet was heating up and it was all our fault. They called it global warming. And then when that didn't stick, they changed the name to climate crisis. Sounds scarier, right? So what did they do? They started fires on purpose. But shh, just lightning, right? They started playing God with the weather, moving storms and heat around like pieces on a chessboard. And then they pulled their sneakiest trick yet. They inflated the temperatures on screens to make you think it's boiling hot. So
All right. All right, so this is all a complete nonsensical narrative that she's selling here. So first of all, she begins with, again, this childish conspiracy kind of notion. The big people in charge wanted you to be afraid of the planet. Now, who were they exactly? Who are the big people in charge? Was that industry? Was that the government? Is it the lizard men? I mean, who was it that was actually doing this? This is historical nonsense. I'll tell you what actually happened was not the big people in charge, but scientists were the first one to raise alarm bells about global warming based upon the scientific data. First of all, we knew for a century that constantly releasing carbon dioxide into the air would cause an accelerated greenhouse effect, which should start to increase global average temperatures. And as our models got better, they showed that, yeah, that's actually what should happen. The models have been actually very good at predicting the actual warming that has occurred. And we've developed better and better methods for accurately measuring global temperatures, and they are showing a consistent rise in temperature. This was all done by scientists, not the big people in charge, not the government, not industry. And they didn't do it to make people scared. They did it because that's what the scientific evidence was showing. They looked to see, is there anything else that could be causing the warming? And nothing else really could explain the anomalous warming. The only thing that was left was, greenhouse gases, which were being released on an industrial scale. That was it. So out of the gate, her first statement is wrong, just straight up objectively, historically wrong. Then what happened was that the government didn't want to listen to it. And the industry, the fossil fuel industry, also didn't want to hear that narrative. So the fossil fuel industry started funding a campaign of disinformation to try to discredit the scientists and discredit the science and create as much uncertainty and doubt as possible to try to delay any action on climate change. And they were able to lobby the government to go along with this delay of doing anything effective to curb climate change. That's what actually happened. It wasn't the powers that be trying to scare people about climate change. It was scientists looking at data, which was rejected and spurred a campaign of misinformation by the fossil fuel industry and government. We were unable to get our shit together politically, unable to create the political will to do anything really effective about it. That's what happened. Then she goes from that completely wrong narrative about historically what happened and sort of this childish view of they think this without knowing who they are or thinking even slightly deep about who they are. Then she goes right off the deep end into tinfoil hat conspiracy area. She claims that, again, whoever they are causing forest fires. We're starting the fires in order to convince people that global warming is real. There's zero evidence for that. Again, that's a crazy conspiracy theory. Then she offers as evidence later in the video, which we didn't show, that NASA admitting they control the weather, and she completely misinterprets what's being shown in this video. So first of all, what is being shown definitely is the test firing of a large rocket. Yeah, NASA does do that. They test fire rockets. They do that by having them, locked down very tight. They're horizontal. They shoot out sideways. They don't go anywhere because they're locked in place. This particular one was a hydrogen fuel rocket, right? So how do you burn hydrogen? You mix it with oxygen. What happens when you mix hydrogen and oxygen? they burn into water, right? And so test firing this large rocket with hydrogen fuel created a huge vapor cloud, which then started to rain down some of the water that was created by by burning the hydrogen fuel. That's not weather control or weather creation. That was a very temporary local phenomenon caused by burning a whole tank full of hydrogen with oxygen. That's a predictable outcome of that. That is not evidence that NASA is controlling the weather or they are controlling the weather or anything like that. There is no technology for any significant weather control. Yeah, we can make these temporary things. You could seed clouds to try to make them rain at some point or whatever. But we don't have total control over the weather. That is complete conspiracy nonsense. So this person has no idea what they're talking about. They don't have any access to any actual information. They're rewriting history to be consistent with their narrative, and they're just spouting tinfoil hat conspiracy theories. It's utter nonsense, which plays right into the hands of the misinformation machine that's trying to generate doubt and uncertainty about climate change so that we don't do anything about it until we have more negative consequences of climate change. Don't listen to this. It is nonsense.
Alrighty, climate change.
The infamous they do everything.
These they are up to everything. Not non-binary people. They are cool. But the other they're the bad they.
Right. The bad they.
The bad they. All right. Here we go with this one.
You can stick needles into people's spine and you can draw out fluid, and you can look at the metabolites of things like serotonin, and you can get depressed people and undepressed people and say, is there any difference in the actual amount of serotonin floating around in the brain? Every time they've done this, they have not found that there is any difference between depressed and undepressed people. But
there's no difference?
There is no difference. Because that's why we don't use any biological markers in the diagnosis of any psychiatric conditions. No brain scans, no blood tests. They're not useful because there are no ways, like actual biological ways to differentiate depressed people from undepressed people.
Are you serious?
Absolutely. And the way they
All right, clearly neither of these guys actually understand what's going on. This is very misleading. So the claim is that we don't use biomarkers to diagnose psychiatric illness like major depression. That's true. But the implication here is that because these entities don't really exist, or that they're lying to you about what the real cause is, that they're not in any way biological, and therefore they shouldn't be treated with medication or with the standard treatments that are offered for them. But that's not true. That second part is not true, the implications of it. There's basically two main reasons why we do not currently have biomarkers for the diagnosis of psychiatric illness, things like major depression. One is because these are complicated, multifactorial entities, right? So two people who have depression don't necessarily have the same condition, right? They're not depressed for the same reason. Depression should be thought more of like a symptom, right? That's like saying we don't have a biomarker to diagnose whatever, pain. It's like, yeah, pain is a symptom. It's not a disease. So you could be depressed for a number of overlapping reasons. That means that there's unlikely to be a single biomarker that's true for everybody with a major depression, because they have it for different reasons. And so it becomes very hard to get, statistically, like, yes, everyone who's depressed, or most people who are depressed, are going to have this one difference about them biologically. It's likely not to be true. It may only be true in 20 or 30 or 40% of people, and that makes it basically useless as a diagnostic marker, which is why we don't use them for diagnostic biomarkers. The other reason is because the brain is complicated and it's not all based on simple biological factors, right? So like with your liver, we know your liver's working because your liver cells are happy and they're functioning and it's producing the things that liver cells produce, etc. Your brain, however, has other layers of complexity that affect its function that don't lend themselves to biomarkers. Like, for example, we know that people who have major depression have differences in the networks of connections in their brain. Their brains are basically wired differently. Again, we always have to use some overly simplified metaphors to explain what we're talking about. But basically, if you're talking about the pattern of connections and how robust those connections are and what other networks they're connecting to, et cetera, they're demonstrably different in people who are having major depression from people who aren't. But again, there are differences. Not everyone has the same pattern. There are different patterns that you have one of several patterns that we may recognize among people who suffer from a major depression. For example, the connection between the frontal lobes and the limbic system may be different. So the part of the brain that regulates emotion and the part of the brain that generates emotion is different in people who have a major depression. Some people who do versus people who are not. That's the level at which these kinds of psychiatric symptoms occur, the level of brain networks and brain connections. Also, like the serotonin issue, no one is saying that people who are depressed don't make serotonin, or that's why we should see less of it outside the brain, in the periphery or in the spinal fluid. Or the breakdown products of serotonin. I mean, that may have been an early hypothesis, but we quickly show that's not the case. That does it, but having the same basic amount of serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter, doesn't mean that it's functioning the same, right? So your receptors could be different. How much your receptors react to serotonin could be different. How much you secrete, how quickly you make it, how quickly you reuptake the serotonin out of the synapse. In fact, one class of drugs that are used to treat depression are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. What do? They just inhibit or block so serotonin gets released into the synapse, it binds to the receptors, it has an effect, right? And then it gets taken back up by the neuron, and that ends the signal, right? It turns the signal back off again. But you can inhibit the reuptake of the serotonin to prolong the signal, so that serotonin creates a stronger signal when it's released into the synapse than if you didn't have it. So that doesn't affect the total amount of serotonin. It's just making its action a little bit more prolonged in the synapse, not something that's amenable to a biomarker. You have to look at far more subtle things. So what he's saying is true, but then he's using it in a very misleading way to create the complete false impression of what's going on. And if you read the comments to that video, people are buying it. They're buying this false narrative that somehow the medical community is lying to people about what causes depression. And then, of course, people say it's actually all nutrition, or it's actually all hormones, or it's something else. They come up with their alternate hypothesis. It's got to be entirely this other thing. It's like, it's complicated. It's partly genetic. It's obviously partly environmental, right? Emotions are always going to be environmental. But that doesn't mean there are no other biological factors, such as your networks or the strength of your connections or the activity of the neurotransmitters, et cetera. Just looking at this narrowly is like, well, we can't use spinal fluid as a biomarker is meaningless. It's completely misleading. And Tucker Carlson here is completely buying the nonsense here.
Alrighty, there we go.
Lying with facts.
Depression.
What's the third one?
The third one, so actually, I think we had 4, but maybe that other one was not supposed to be.
What are the other 2?
It was cholesterol. Maybe it was just 3. It was the cholesterol one, right? I think that was it. So, molecular hydrogen.
Molecular hydrogen. What was the cholesterol one again?
So it was cholesterol. Let me see in the email.
Causing.
It's
the aphasia.
Yeah, aphasia and drugs. That's right. and it was cholesterol drugs causing aphasia.
Yeah, okay.
We don't have to do that one. We could do the molecular hydrogen.
We
if
could
you
do the
prefer.
aphasia one.
All right.
Let's just do the aphasia one.
All right, here we go. Stand by.
A billionaire patient. This guy comes in, he's been to the Mayo Clinic 5 times in 2 years for 3-month stints at a time for a condition called aphasia, which is what Bruce Willis just retired from Hollywood. Your brain is thinking what to say, but your mouth won't say it. It is delayed. On the intake forms, he actually had 5 different prescription medications. 3 of them were cholesterol drugs, 2 of them were high blood pressure drugs. But I didn't know how long he'd been on them. I just saw them on there and by name. So I went home and I wanted to know, of these pharmaceutical drugs, I wonder if any of these are published in peer-reviewed published research studies to be known to cause aphasia. I printed out these research studies, and as they're flipping through it, they had no idea that the cholesterol drugs had a published side effect to cause aphasia. I said, can I ask you when you were prescribed these drugs? And he said, 3 years ago. I said, how long ago did your aphasia start? And he goes, 2.5 years ago. And I said, okay, you're going to stop your cholesterol drugs today. He came off the drugs within 2 weeks. All of his speech was returned.
Yeah. All right, so it's possible that this anecdote, again, it's an anecdote. We don't have any information about the details. I have 100 questions that I would want to know about this. It's possible that it's true in that aphasia, reversible aphasia, is a known, very rare side effect of the statin drugs. When people do develop neurological symptoms, it's standard procedure to ask them about the temporal sequence of events. Like, did you start any new drugs? You know, when these symptoms began, what else might have happened? That's a good detective physician would do that. And yeah, it gets missed, of course, especially if it's super rare, like it's the first time you would have ever seen it in your career. You may have missed that. So that's all plausible. I'm not saying that story is not true. But again, the implication is that, oh yeah, like this is a major cause of aphasia, or that drugs are bad, which is, I know what this guy's like narrative is. And again, if you read the comments, like, oh yeah, the drugs will kill you. It's a known, but it's a very rare side effect, and it's completely reversible. So if you do develop this side effect, you stop it. I have to pedantically point out a couple of things. His description of aphasia is not really true. Aphasia is a general term for just, you have a neurological language problem, right? It's in the language center of the brain. That's where the problem is. It's not a mechanical problem with the ability to speak. It is a language processing problem. And there are different types of aphasia. There are actually 8 different types of aphasia, and this depends upon what parts of the language processing parts of the brain are affected. His description was closest to what we would call Broca's aphasia or an expressive aphasia, where yes, you can understand words, you could think of words, but you cannot the part of your brain that controls the mechanical speech, and not just the physical strength, but like the nuance of being able to speak, that part of the brain's not working. So you can't get the thoughts out. But there's also like Wernicke's aphasia or a receptive aphasia, where you can't understand words and you can't think of words. It's not just a connection between, it's not just getting the language out. You actually can't understand things or whatever. He also says that this is what Bruce Willis had. That's misleading. Bruce Willis has frontotemporal dementia. Aphasia was a symptom of his dementia, right? Like aphasia, again, is more of a symptom, not a disease. Something causes the aphasia. It just refers to the part of the brain that's not working, really. That's what it's referring to. Bruce Willis has frontotemporal dementia. The temporal lobes and the frontal lobes are involved with language, and so it's common to have aphasia as part of any dementia, but especially frontotemporal dementia. Right, and so what this person had, if they did have a side effect from the statin drug, is completely different than what Bruce Willis has. Two things have absolutely nothing to do with each other. So again, this is like, maybe this is true. I mean, it's true that this is a side effect, again, a rare and reversible side effect of the statin drugs, but presenting it in isolation this way without putting it into context as this anecdote, the details of which I cannot verify, it creates this misleading impression, right? A completely misleading impression. And this is something that any good physician should think about and should explore. Again, not that things don't get missed, especially if they're rare, They do. People are not perfect. But I think he's just creating a really misleading narrative with this video.
All right.
That's it. 3 and done.
We did the thing. All right, chat. Thanks for joining us. So we will be back next Wednesday, I believe.
Yeah, I think we're good.
We should be good next Wednesday.
Until, I guess the Wednesday before Kansas, I don't know. I might be busy.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, reminds me to say to everybody, there's still tickets available for the Kansas City, not Kansas City. I keep saying that because I like
Lawrence,
the song,
Kansas, right?
But it's Lawrence, Kansas.
You can get there from Kansas City.
Sure,
yeah. We have 2 shows. We have the Extravaganza, which is our fun improv, funny stage show, science themed, critical thinking themed stage show. It's really good. And we also have our what we call Private Show Plus. It's not just us sitting around recording a private show. It's a 3-hour event. More than 3 hours really, but it's 3 hours of us, being on stage. We do record a live show in there, but then we do a bunch of other stuff that's all audience participation.
Yeah, there's
around
a lot of
that. Yeah, it's like an hour and a half of the show, or hour and a half of audience participation, fun stuff. It's really good. It's really, really good. We've had universally super positive feedback about.
Plus you get to hang out with some skeptical
and you get to hang out with
nerds.
us before and after. We always do
true,
book signing. We do pictures. We do Q&A. But we have some special stuff, and I think actually George is going to come on the show tonight. We're going to talk about some of the special stuff we're doing in the private
secrets.
show.
So yeah, if you're in the area or you want to fly there, who knows? Come to Lawrence, Kansas, and then also Nauticon Australia is still happening. So tickets we'll let you know about.
We'll let you know
They're
very soon. It's we're 1 year out.
Yeah.
So it's
still a lot of stuff we have to finagle around.
Right. But the tickets should be going up soon. Yeah.
All right, chat. Thanks for being here. We'll see you later. Bye bye.
Bye. Thanks, Ian.
Bye. No problem. Bye bye.
All right.